Shalom, Brukuba. Welcome. We're going to be going through a bunch of typology today and also probably chapters 20, 21, 22 of Gen- Thank you, Stephen, for joining me.
It's always a
Uh,
pleasure, Chris.
yes. We had Ash bring up, uh, going to talk about the midrash that says Isaac carried a cross with Abraham. Uh, I am going to talk about Isaac carrying the wood that he will be sacrificed on. Yeah, we're gonna go into that. I'm unfamiliar with that specific midrash, though. That's not one of the ones I know for the Christianity inside of the rabbinic Judaism system. Because obviously, like early rabbinicism is just straight up Christianity. There's very few things that are like crazy different until the 400s, 500s, 600s. But even then, like the Talmud is just full of it. Um, anyway, how you doing, Stephen?
I'm having a blast. We're about midway through uh the week of unleavened bread. So
Nice.
there's been lots of unleavened bread and all sorts of fun things that go along with it.
So I'm sure you like get sick of matzah by the time the week is over.
Actually, because we make our own and
Based.
tastes really good. And it ends up being where my kids still ask me to keep making it after the week is over. Which is it's pretty easy to make, but it's messy. And so I love it. I love eating it, and it's very versatile, but it's makes a big floury mess. And it's
Right.
not fun because then you do all the work
Yeah.
of making it, and then
Right.
you have to clean it all up.
Valid, Hannah. Bread making is a hard process unless you use a machine, but then it's even then.
Mm.
Anyway, I'm making naan like tomorrow, so I'll make some yummy flatbread myself. But okay, jumping into the word. Always wanted to learn how to make bread. Just do it. Throw it's like four ingredients, throw them all together, smash it until it stops being stupidly sticky, and then bake it. It's very easy, actually. I was talking about like sourdough bread, and it's like, no, bread is surprisingly easy. People make it way harder than it needs to be. Um, Coming from a dude who used to be a chef. Anyway, pastries are hard. Pastries suck. I would not do pastries, but bread is very easy. So, anyway, we're gonna be going through probably around 12 types today, and I'm debating on whether I want to just like rapid fire them
Mm.
and let people think about them, or if we want to go through all of the passages in which they relate, because that can become an insane amount of text very quickly. And we already went through most of the text for these. So, like,
Mm.
we're going to go through Adam, Eve, the first sacrifice, Abel, Seth, Cain, Noah, Enoch, Melchizedek, Abraham, Isaac, um, Hagar, Sarai.
At
We're
first, I
going to go
thought
through a
you
lot
were
of
going
stuff.
to say that we were going through 12 chapters. And I thought, wow, Chris is really
No,
ambitious. He's get ready to be up till
no,
next Tuesday.
yeah, no. We, we no, we will do that for the Joseph stream. I mean, check
Mm.
that out. That's gonna be fun. That's gonna be a full day event. I will literally have to take work off to do that. So, no. Uh, I might even wait until May to do the Joseph stream, because my wife uh is doing stuff. Actually, no, it should be fine. Well, it'll be soon, but it'll take a while. Anyway, we can go through the Bible, the Bible. The only problem with like going through all of this stuff is I could go through the whole list of typologies in like 20 minutes. It's just not going to be super detailed. So if we want it
Mhm.
to be super detailed, we have to read all of the text that we already read in the last like several weeks. But if we do that, we're not going to finish. So I'm in like a catch 22. Do I want to just give the information or not finish and have this
What
be
if
like
you
4
did
parts.
what if you did one of those fun interactive things, Chris, where you made a poll and then you could list them all uh, concisely and then use a poll to see what the fellows joining us would like to see
Do the
or like
20
to
and
detail.
mm, how does one do that on a StreamYard? I don't think it works. Let's do it on YouTube.
Yeah, you're talking to a guy who
Uh,
literally has my phone tied to a stand right now using some
uh,
sisal.
go
So I will
slow
be of no
through
help unless
and
we want to
go.
take these responses via carrier pigeon, and then I could maybe figure out a way to get that.
All right. I've started the poll. Uh, I'll let you guys. It's a pick your own adventure game right now.
Yeah.
Uh, anyway, we'll probably start with uh Isaac. Why can't I see the full thing? 100% is picking slow so far. It's gonna be a long night. Okay.
Get a pot of
Uh,
Mountain Dew boiling on the stove.
Yeah. Oh, 50-50 now. Okay. So I guess while you guys are mulling that over, we'll do the slow for Isaac just because it's really cool. And then we can go back and do the faster slow based on how much time Isaac took, and then go back through the rest of them. Especially because we haven't read 22 yet. I don't remember if there's anything in 20 or 21 I want to specifically bring up, other than the it's Exodus. That's the wrong book. That's not looks. That doesn't look right. Other than like Sarah, you know, discovering the fact that they are actually half siblings, which we already talked about. So I don't know if I want to
Uh-huh.
go through 20 much. And then 21 is just her burying the child. Um, so there is one. Yeah, Ash, if you want to put that in the chat or if you want to feel free to hop on the stream. I'm curious what that Midrash is. I've not read that myself. But let's go through 22. This is the
This is one of
most,
my favorite
yeah,
chapters.
this is something I wish every single Christian would know. And if every Christian did know this, I think we would see a lot more people who want to study the Bible, who want to read the Bible, who want to especially read the Old Testament, because the Old Testament, in my opinion, is slightly more based than the New Testament. I know heretical sounding as that
Oh,
is.
you slippery Judaizer.
I'm a slippery Judaizer. The Old Testament is based, uh, as I've hoped to have shown in the last couple of weeks, going through the Old Testament from Genesis and Exodus. But this is one of my favorite passages in the entire Bible. I teach it every chance I get. I've already made a video on this, so if you've watched that video, this is just going to be a repeat. But yeah, interesting. So he says, I got to find it for you. There's a midrash that says Isaac was carrying a Yosel Batu?
Salvator.
Salato. My brain. I need to practice reading Hebrew more. Man.
It's weird
That
without the
is.
vowels.
It is weird without the vowels, but I should still be able to do it. Like, I see the zal and then the va to, vato, but my brain still isn't like, I have to think about it. For whatever reason. I do the same thing in like Spanish, but.
Oh, hello, Ruby.
Okay. So let's go through. We're gonna read all 22, then we'll go back and we'll do the typology and we'll just fill in the pieces. I know you probably know the answers to all of these, so you can be the answer guy for all the questions I ask. But whenever we read this, I want the audience to think about Christ as we're going through it. So now it happened after these things that God tested Abraham and said to him, Abraham, and he said, Here I am. Then he said, Now take now your son, your only son, whom you love, Isaac, and go forth to the land of Moriah. and offer him there as a burnt offering on one of the mountains I will show you, on which I will tell you. So Abraham uh, rose early in the morning, and saddled his donkey, and took two of his young men with him, and Isaac his son. And he split wood for the burnt offering, and rose and went to the place of which God had told him. On the third day, Abraham lifted up his eyes and saw the place from a distance. And Abraham said to his young men, "Stay here with the donkey, while I and the boy go over there, and we will worship, and we will return to you." Then Abraham took the wood of the burnt offering and put it on Isaac his son, and he took in his hand the fire and the knife. So the two of them walked on together. Then Isaac spoke to Abraham his father and said, "My father." And he said, "Here I am, my son." And he said, "Behold the fire and the wood, but where is the lamb for the burnt offering?" And Abraham said, "God will provide for himself the lamb for the burnt offering, my son." So the two of them walked on together. And then they came to the place of which God had told him about, and Abraham built the altar there, and arranged the wood, and bound his son Isaac, and put him on the altar on top of the wood. And Abraham stretched out his hand and took the knife to slay his son. But the angel of Yahweh called to him from heaven, and said, "Abraham, Abraham." And he said, "Here I am." And he said, "Do not stretch out your hand against the boy, and do nothing to him, for now I know that you fear God, since you have not withheld your son, your only one, from me." I'm used to reading this in different translations. My brain broke. Then Abraham lifted up his eyes and saw, and behold, there was a ram after it had been caught. Wow. There was a ram after it had been caught in the thicket by its horns. And Abraham went and took the ram and offered it up for a burnt offering in the place of his son. And Abraham called the name of that place, "Yahweh will provide," as it is said in this day. As it is said this day, "In the moment of Yahweh it will be provided on the mount." And in the mount of Yahweh it will be provided. My brain is not handling this. Okay. Then the angel of Yahweh called to Abraham a second time from heaven and said, "By myself I have sworn, declares Yahweh, because you have done this thing, and have not spared your son, your only one. Indeed, I will greatly bless you, and I will greatly multiply your seed as the stars of the heavens, and as the sand which is on the seashore. And your seed shall possess the gate of his enemies. In your seed all the nations of the earth shall be blessed, because you have listened to my voice." So Abraham returned his young men, and they rose and walked together to Beersheba, and Abraham lived at Beersheba. A ton of stuff here. So I have most of them already highlighted, but I'm sure there's a number of these things that just like popped out to you. Email is going to be better. I'll open up my email. My phone is my camera. So if you ever send me a text while I'm live, I will not be able to see it. Bereshit Rabbah 56.
I'd like to point out how much I appreciate, I don't know why, but Sebastian in the chat is using the thorn letter, which is
Yes.
fun.
Yes, he has been doing that a lot lately. Yeah. It's pretty fun. I was very confused. He was also using Z's instead of Y's for a while. And it was just breaking my brain trying to read his comments. It's fun.
Or you could just take it as he's typing with a Jamaican accent if you don't recognize that letter.
Not that one, this one. Okay. So Abraham took the wood of the burnt offering and placed it upon Isaac his son. He took it in his hand, the fire and the knife, and the two of them went on together. Abraham took the wood for the burnt offering, like someone bearing his own gibbet on his shoulder. He took in his hand the fire and the knife. Rabbi Hannah said, "Why is a knife called mahakah, or machalet? Machalet. It is because it renders food fit to be eaten. The rabbis say all the eating that the people of Israel eat in this world, they eat only due to the merit of that knife." The two of them went on together, one to bind and one to be bound. That's not the same.
I've got a pesky delay on what I'm seeing, so I'm trying to keep up with you, Chris. You looking for the The
Yeah, I was
word
looking
for
for the word for cross there.
okay, let's see.
Does the okay.
Soluvo. Okay, so that's probably it though. It's Soluvo.
Yeah, so instead of being gibbet, they specifically it should say cross. So this verse right here. What even is a gibbet? Wait.
Good question.
Actually. Doo, doo, doo. A gallows? It's still a
Oh,
wooden
interesting.
pole.
Uh-huh.
Interesting.
And it still ties in with the part
Yeah.
in the Torah that
Like,
mentions that a man is, is hanged is cursed.
right. It would still fit the bill. So they deliberately change Abraham taking the wood of burnt offering like someone bearing his own cross on his shoulder. That is wild. Oh man. No, I've read Better Shoot About 56 because it's related to the Islamic dilemma or the Talmudic dilemma for later on. Um, I didn't realize that that would be cross. That's really interesting. Hmm. Yeah. I've definitely seen things that should be translated differently that they don't. But they don't like they don't like anything that sounds Christian. So they will deliberately remove stuff all the time. Okay. Ash.
Uh,
Hello. Hey.
Hey.
yeah, gibbet is like or gibbet is like a gallows, but that's
Mm,
not the word. Like you would just say he hung them on a tree in like biblical Hebrew for a gallows.
Hmm.
You wouldn't say tsluvo. Tsluvo is a
mm,
cross specifically. There's no
interesting.
other render. The only if you took out the vav and like changed it, theoretically it could mean they crucified him, but it wouldn't fit grammatically. Like salvu, like they crucified him specifically.
Right.
But no, tsluvo is his cross. So they're intentionally mistranslating it here, um, when it's very clearly that the Midrash Rabbah is what, 8th century,
Yeah.
7th century, like
It predates Islam, so it's technically very
yeah,
late 6th century. It's like late 500s.
yeah, you'd have to make the claim as a religious Jew that you cannot trust your Jewish sources because they were infiltrated by Christians, or you'd have to admit that it's divinely inspired and they're prefiguring a cross at the Akedah.
Hmm.
You're stuck in a bit of a weird position with that one.
Right. And it's definitely prefiguring the cross with everything else in the passage.
You
Like
know,
it's crazy.
don't mind me. I'm just post Lent cigar and wine. I was
uh,
uh I was baptized this Saturday.
Oh, wow.
nice, nice.
Yeah.
You didn't wait till Sunday,
No, they do it before so you're already a baptized
so you
Christian
can
at
partake
the Easter
in
Vigil.
the. Yeah, okay, makes
Yeah, it was
sense.
pretty intense experience because it was also me and my wife and 3 children. So
Wow.
yeah,
Congrats.
pretty
Yeah.
crazy.
So you were going through RCIA classes, all of you?
So we don't do that in the Eastern
Oh,
Catholic churches. We just kind of like each church has its own like autonomy to do its own thing.
yeah.
So we were had like catechesis classes with seminarian from our church and got ready for that over the last 10 months.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah,
Yeah. So you're
I'm
officially a
shaking a little bit
Catholic.
because the weather got cold here in Texas at night for some reason again.
Oh, you're in Texas, Ash?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. I was born in Texas.
Oh wow, nice. Yeah, we're in the San Antonio area.
Oh, wow. I have one last aunt there. The lady type, not the bug.
Right.
Yeah.
There's the bug type here also.
Yeah.
He has one that he knows specifically still.
Yeah. We got some. We got. Oh, I thought you were saying I know a specific ant that's like.
No,
bothering me.
yeah, it's like the donkey that all the prophets rode.
Yeah.
Not in the zit
I'm
sense.
excited to see what you guys go through with the typology in Genesis because it's just mind blowing, and I'm learning stuff even still like that I didn't like that Sluvo thing. Somebody
Mhm.
posted that in a comment on one of my videos. I didn't know about that.
Yeah, I've never
Like,
heard
I'm
of
just yeah. There's new stuff every day, man. Midrash is exhaustive.
that.
Yeah.
Bereshit
So
Rabbah is a fun read, especially even for Christians. It's
I'm starting to think that maybe some of the church fathers might have written some of the Midrash, especially when you start talking
No.
about divine messiahs dwelling as eternal light under the throne of God and stuff.
Yeah,
Although
yeah,
that's
Bereshit Rabbah.
14th century, so
It is, yeah. Even
yeah,
with
some of those.
the Zohar, like the Zohar, there's a lot of things. It's like that sounds both Gnostic and also pseudo Christian
Well,
at
I
the
don't
same
want to
time.
sidetrack
Sometimes.
your topic for the stream for too long, but I will say that the Zohar, my opinion is that after rejecting and distancing from Christian theology for so long, there was something missing in Judaism, and so Kabbalah came to kind of fill that void.
Interesting. I would agree with that.
Like the spiritual side of things.
Yeah,
Mhm.
because you have a castrated theology
Right.
once you start to remove all these concepts.
Mhm.
Right, you get Maimonides. God is abstract,
Right. No
unknowable.
theophanies.
We don't
Yeah.
really understand this immanent section, part of God that relates to us. So with people like Maimonides, earlier with Sadia Gaon, but once you start to reject all that, all the blatant, clear stuff in the Bible, you're kind of left with a dead theology. So Kabbalah kind
Mhm.
of fills that void.
Right.
Anyways,
Yeah.
I'm gonna head out, watch the stream, but
Okay.
yeah, I
Feel
just
free to
wanted
stick
to
around
pop
if
in.
you want, but I'll just
Yeah, I'm
book
like
later.
shivering and shaking a little bit, so I'll pop out now.
That's fine. All right. Well, love you, brother.
He looks
Mm.
colder there in Texas than it seems like it is here in Ohio.
Honestly, I mean, even in Kansas, like this is pretty warm out today. Even like right now, it's pretty warm out. So I have no idea why Texas is just getting the brunt of it. Anyway, feel free to hop back on for any of the stream. So let's go through this and break down every single place where this points to Christ, and it is shockingly more than what people realize. Almost every single sentence of this passage relates to Jesus in some way,
Mhm.
either as Abraham, as Isaac, or as the Lamb. So it's pretty cool. Do you want me just to go through it? You want me to ask questions? How you want me to approach it for your input on this?
Uh, Going through it is probably best, and then I can just interrupt every 2 seconds.
Developed a severe aversion to the cold on the army. The mildest PTSD one can hope for. Yeah, I have the same thing working. No, I didn't have to do any of like the jungle training or Alaska training. But my aversion to the cold comes from the restaurant that I worked in for almost a year. So I was one of the prep guys, and I had to make all the salads. In order to make salads effectively, you have to submerge the lettuce heads fully under ice water for like 5 minutes at a time. But they didn't make like grids in our restaurant to just like submerge it. So we had to hold it underwater because they don't care about you. So I had several months of my life holding frozen cabbage and lettuce under the water
Oh
while my
man.
hands are burning. Then later on, I would do the grill as well. So I had both extremes of getting like asbestos hands. So now whenever I experience the cold, it's numb, but it still freaks me out. So yeah, I can only imagine what you what training you had to go through for that. I've seen some stuff, man. Dude, it is the worst. Honestly. Ugh. It sucks. like literally freezing your body to the bone in order to make food, so it lasts longer. Anyway, Genesis. So God tested Abraham, and this is the same with Jesus being tested in the wilderness. And also he is testing Abraham in order to show whether or not he will like fulfill the covenant. So it's a beautiful thing where because Abraham is faithful, God will be faithful in the sacrifice of the son. So there's a interesting little thing there. But right here it starts out. So take your son, your only one, whom you love, Isaac, and go forth to the land of Moriah. I love how the rabbis go through this. So I didn't actually bring this up I think it's actually in the Talmud for this one, but there is a debate on like why in the world does it have now take your son, your only one, whom you love, and Isaac as like there's 4 qualifiers to who the person is you're taking, and the rabbis interpret this as, oh well, no, take your son could be for either Ishmael or Isaac. Your only one could again be for Ishmael or Isaac, but it's still kind of weird. Then whom you love, they actually I think relate to Esau. And I was like, what? Because that's Esau I hated. Then it's Isaac because it's still unclear according to the rabbis. But instead, it's actually a type of Christ. So he already had Ishmael. Ishmael was 14 or 13 at this point in time. I think he was 14, or older. So he would have been bare minimum 14 because he was that much older than Isaac. And Isaac was obviously not a child, so he'd probably be, his 30s, 40s for Ishmael. Now I'm logically thinking through that for a second. He was circumcised at 13.
Right.
But we have Ishmael being already around for decades, and he loves Ishmael. It's not just, whom you love.
Mhm.
He loves Ishmael. He, earlier on, a couple chapters ago, he was saying, oh, if only your covenant could be given through Ishmael, because he hadn't gotten Isaac yet, and he loved his son Ishmael. So none of this is true. Yet God is still saying it. Well, I guess not that. These two are not true. It is his son, but it's not his only son, and it's not the only one that he loves. But it is picturing Christ. And this is also the first time in the Bible the word love is used. The first time. So we're 22 chapters in. God is love. Yeah, this is the first time in 22 chapters that the word love is used in the Bible, and it is used in typology of Christ, which is just amazing. So God loves the Son so much. The Father loves the Son so much that he is still willing to sacrifice him in order to fulfill a greater purpose. So the Father was getting Abraham to sacrifice the Son to show fidelity and commitment and all these things, and the Father sacrifices the Son in order to save the whole world. So we get this love language being applied to Isaac for the first time in the Bible, which is just amazing. So we have the only son, he's the only begotten son, go forth from the land of Moriah. Now Moriah is interesting. Where is Moriah?
It is Jerusalem, isn't it?
It is Jerusalem, yes. And it is also the Mount Moriah is specifically the Temple Mount.
Right.
So he is taking him up out into Jerusalem. Oh, and he's saying, hey, take your son, your only son, whom you love, go to Jerusalem and offer him there as a burnt offering on the mountains of which I will tell you. So he is telling him to go to the Temple Mount to sacrifice his son. So Abraham rose early in the morning and saddled his donkey and took 2 of his young men with him and Isaac his son. So now he is going into Jerusalem riding a donkey, and as is Isaac. So there's multiple donkeys here because it is, multiple people going, and Isaac is likely coming in on a donkey as well. So we get Abraham riding on a donkey and probably also Isaac riding in on a donkey into Jerusalem for the sacrifice. And Isaac, his son, he split the wood for the burnt offering and rose and went to the place of which God had told him. So now there's wood for the offering, just as the cross. On the 3rd day, so again, we get 3rd day language. This comes up a lot in typology. But on the 3rd day, just as Christ raised on the 3rd day, Abraham lifted up his eyes. This is also a typology. you talk about the bronze serpent with Jesus being raised up. He's lifting up the eyes, and you look at the bronze serpent, you'll receive salvation. You look at the cross, you will receive salvation. And he saw the place from a distance. And Abraham said to his young men, "Stay here with the donkey while I and the boy go over there. We will worship and we will return to you." Why does he say we will return to you if God said sacrifice him?
That would be, I've heard a couple things, that Abraham by faith already knew that God would, like he says to Isaac, that God himself will provide the sacrifice,
Mhm.
which I mean, that one I
Well,
think
that
I
hasn't
lean
happened yet.
towards.
That hasn't happened yet.
Oh no, I'm saying
Okay.
even when he's
On
talking to
on the
Isaac,
journey there.
yeah, he's telling him that God
But
will
then
provide the sacrifice.
why would he ask where the lamb is?
Wait, I think I misheard your question.
Okay.
And then I
Right
answered.
whenever they get to the base of the mountain, he is saying, "We will return to you," to his men that
Mhm.
are at the base of the mountain. Why does Abraham believe that Isaac will come back with him if he's going to go kill them?
I've also heard that he was expecting a resurrection.
Yes. And it's actually quite explicit in the Bible that he was. So in
You
Hebrews
said
11,
Hebrews? Okay, yeah.
Hebrews 11 just explicitly says that he did. By faith, Abraham, when he was tested, offered up Isaac, and when he had received the promises which he was offering, was when he received the promises, was offering up his only son, to whom it was said, "In Isaac your seed shall be called." He considered that God is able to raise people even from the dead, from which,
Mm.
figuratively speaking, he also received him back. So here, he's already thinking, "Hey, God is going to raise my son from the dead after I kill him." That is amazing.
Mm.
That is crazy. So we have a resurrection already in the mind of the Father before the sacrifice is going to happen. Just as we see prophesied that Jesus will resurrect. So even though the
Mhm.
Father is going to sacrifice the Son will resurrect. And that was pre-planned with this event. Just pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Then Abraham took the wood of the burnt offering and put it on Isaac his son, and he took in his hand the fire and the knife, so the two of them walked on together. Isaac is carrying the wood on which he will be sacrificed.
Which then, thanks to Ash bringing that up, we have even even
Midrash, yeah.
even the
Even the
rabbis think
Jews,
so.
yeah. Even the rabbis say that this is a cross placed on Isaac. This is obviously a cross placed on Isaac. I'm also going to end the poll. 56% of people wanted the slow version, so 44 said no. We might do a mixture. Yeah. Isaac arrived on donkey. It is crazy. So we have Isaac carrying the wood on which he will be sacrificed up the mountain. And the father is responsible for the knife and the fire. The father is the one who is going to slay. The father is the one who is responsible for the death of the son. No one else is. Just as the Jews and the Gentiles were not directly responsible for Jesus' death, Jesus chose to be on that wood, and the father chose to have him killed.
I was gonna
If he
say Abraham
wanted,
is an old man now, and Isaac's a fit
yes,
young man, so Isaac was
yes,
also perfectly obedient, even though
hmm
he had to at some point have some sort of idea that this is a little bit fishy, Dad. And
yes.
but he did
But
not protest or fight or run.
mhm,
He it because it wasn't there wasn't a wrestling match where
right,
Abraham had to get him down and tie him up. It's
hmm
so Isaac submitted as the
yeah.
a picture of the perfect son.
And importantly, Isaac was, as you mentioned, much like he was fit enough to fight off his dad. Just flee. You
Mhm.
didn't have to fight him, just flee.
Right.
He didn't. And one of the most important evidences we have for them not having broken relationship afterwards is, where did Isaac live the rest of his life?
Uh, w- with his parents, didn't he?
In the tent of his
Yeah,
mother.
yeah, that's right.
hmm So he is a mama's boy, and he, for years, was heartbroken and sad, living in the tent of his mother until he got Rebecca. Then he was comforted, which we'll go through next week. uh, we may or may not go through the Rebecca's 3. Anyway, me and Ash already did that on David Wood's stream. So if you want to go watch that, you can watch that. But we have Isaac staying with his family forever. He never left them. There was never a period of time in which it didn't happen. He was with his family. He was with his parents. He doesn't appear to be bitter towards his father, because the other family members that were in states of that, like, we see the family be broken up and spread out, and like especially with like Esau and Jacob. If it was not by choice, if it was not a willing sacrifice, we would see the same thing with Isaac, and we don't. So, yeah. It was indeed with the mother. So we have that, and then Isaac spoke to Abraham, his father, and said, "My father." He said, "Here I am, my son." And he said, "Behold the fire and the wood, but where is the lamb for the burnt offering? God will provide for himself for the lamb for the burnt offering." And who was it? It was his son. So the two of them walked on together. This is pretty amazing whenever you look at the sacrifice itself. And then they came to the place of which God had told him about, and Abraham built an altar there and arranged the wood. So Abraham, the father, was responsible for building the cross, which is kind of amazing. So Jesus, for example, his cross was not his. That's a strange thought. The cross of Jesus was not made for Jesus. It was made for another man. It was made for Jesus Barabbas, or Barabbas, if you want to not add Jesus to it. It was made for Barabbas. It was not made for Jesus. He died on another man's cross because he was freed and Jesus was put onto it.
And a criminal.
A criminal's cross, yes. And so like the whole thing of like Jesus taking on our sin, taking on our debt and everything else, like that comes from the cross of Barabbas. So you have one Jesus and the other Jesus replacing it. It's pretty amazing. But here we have the Father prearranging the altar on which he will be killed. And you have the Temple Mount and like Golgotha, like all that prepared. You have the temple prepared well in advance for the cross to be where it is. Like God arranged all of this very well. It's crazy. And then he arranged the wood and bound his son Isaac and put him on the altar on top of the wood. On top of the wood. So he's like, again, language. He was bound and he was bound to the wood. It was likely through like rope, and Jesus was bound by nails and possibly also by rope. There's debate on whether it was by both or not. But he was bound to the wood just as Christ was bound to the wood. And he was placed on an altar as a sacrifice just as Christ was laid. And this again with the bronze serpent. And then Abraham stretched out his hand and took the knife to slay his son. And God did slay Jesus. So whereas Abraham was willing to, God actually fulfilled it. And the angel of Yahweh called out to him from heaven and said, "Abraham, Abraham." And he said, "Here I am." Who is the angel of Yahweh?
That would be the pre-incarnate Yeshua.
That is, in fact, Yeshua. This is Jesus Christ pre-incarnate. So the one who stops Abraham from killing the son is Jesus. Jesus himself called to Abraham, met with him multiple times before this, and said, "Hey, go to this mountain and sacrifice your son." Whenever he saw that he was willing to do it, Jesus himself stopped it. This will become relevant based on what happens next. Do not stretch out your hand against the boy and do nothing to him, for now I know that you fear God, since you have not withheld your son, your only one, from me. So now Jesus is saying, because you didn't withhold it from me, this is again like the angel of Yahweh being Yahweh but not Yahweh language, like Trinitarian stuff you can point to. But I know that you fear God because you have not withheld Isaac from me. And then at that moment, he substituted the son for the ram, the son for the lamb. Abraham lifted up his eyes and saw, and behold, there was a ram after it had been caught in the thicket by its horns. And Abraham went and took the ram and offered it up for a burnt offering in the place of his son. And Abraham called the name of that place, Yahweh will provide. as it is said, this day in the mount of Yahweh, it will be provided. This is the Temple Mount. So at the moment where he was going to sacrifice the son, Jesus himself supernaturally provides the lamb on which he will be slain. But it's not just a lamb. It's a ram caught by its horns in a thicket. Do you know what a thicket is?
Thorn bush?
It's a thorn bush. So this ram had its horns up here, and it was caught with thorns. So it had a crown of thorns. So this is a lamb, a male lamb, to be slain with a crown of thorns, replacing the son, being sacrificed by the father as a burnt offering, as an atonement offering. And Jesus himself is providing it. And it says Yahweh will provide. What will he provide? He'll provide salvation. And then the angel of Yahweh, again, Jesus calls out a second time and says, by myself I have sworn, declares Yahweh, because you have done this thing, you have not spared your son, your only one. Indeed, I will greatly bless you, and I will greatly multiply your seed as the stars of heaven and the sand on which the seashore. And your seed shall possess the gates of his enemies. In your seed all the nations of the earth shall be blessed, because you have listened to my voice. All of the nations of the earth will be blessed through this seed. Who is that seed? It's Jesus. Yeshua. He is the one who is the blessing. What is the blessing? It's his death. So Jesus himself gives the covenant with Abraham in which he will die to fulfill. In a moment where he's replacing the son with the lamb to be slain with a crown of thorns on Calvary, 2,000 years before the sacrifice, almost to the day, riding in on a donkey on the third day.
Also, another thing, just a little tidbit, Chris, to point out, since we're doing all the details, thorns are representative of sin because of the ground being
Yes.
cursed from Adam. And so not only the crown of thorns, but in this instance, the ram caught in the thorns. Very cool. Very, very cool.
And the lamb said, Baba, which we know means father.
And another thing to point out, that reminds me, with I don't know how people typically say it in English, Barabbas or Barabbas, or Chris, I'm sure you know
Barabbas.
what that name means, but in case anybody else didn't, Bar Abba, it means son of the father.
Son of the father. Yeah. So we have the son of the father being replaced by the son
of the father.
The son of the father, to then take his cross, his wood, that is also splintered. So it has like things happening inside. Like the sin is literally penetrating his body as he's being crucified, with the thorns being pounded into his head. And here we have the thorns being pounded, not pounded, but like, whenever a ram gets caught, they shake around to try to get it. It likely dug in. So this is like very similar type of situation for that. But we have, again, the wood being the method by which atonement happens. This will come up a lot tonight. It's pretty cool. So, yeah. The lamb said, Bob. So cute. Anyway, yeah. Typology is pretty based. We're going to jump back, I think, to Adam. We're going to go all the way back.
Hit the rewind button.
Yes, I'm going to go tinkle in the little boy's room real quick. Be right back.
Well, everybody, I know that it's you've come to expect something from me, but Chris is real shady now, and I feel like he's not really peeing sometimes, because we went over this last week and I didn't get to finish it, and it was a short presentation, so I'm kind of annoyed. But let's see, I gotta pay attention. So I had the new idea. I gotta build this teleportation device, and by using that, I will teleport to Chris's house and surprise him and challenge him to a Hebrew handwriting contest. And he obviously will bite his nails and be terrified. And then I will be victorious. And you see here this illustration of my success where I now am ruling planet Earth. And if I can get this last page out, I need your help. So send check or money order to Mr. Steven, or in lieu of that, you can send a $1.99 super chat and title it Teleporter Fund. And we also, in case we have some multilingual people out there, se habla español, so we will receive your dinero, of course, or your shkalim. We'll take those. We'll take just about anything. And I can't wait till Chris goes over the atom stuff.
The Adam stuff.
Yeah, that's what you said.
That is what I said. What is happening? Okay. So, yeah. Now, God made a covenant with Adam, with any tree of the garden you shall surely eat of it, but if you eat from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, you shall surely die. And then the New Testament does a good job. Paul does a great job at just picturing Adam and Christ together. You read Romans, you find this all over the place. He is Christ is called the last Adam. We have language where, Adam failed and brought destruction and death into humanity. Christ succeeded in bringing it away and bringing us into the resurrection. We have Adam is the firstborn of all creation, and he's the first image bearer, and Christ is the exact image and glory and imprint of Yahweh. He's the radiance of God. He's the divine human. He's the divine image bearer. So we have a lot of language that is very similar to it. Then also we have Adam being granted all authority on earth, and Jesus has all authority on earth.
And in heaven.
And in heaven and everything. So it's pretty cool. He's also known as the Son of God, because he's literally like the Son of God.
Chris,
this is in Luke's genealogy.
God forbid I go off on a tangent, so this can be short. But do you think Adam and Eve had belly buttons?
No.
Just because, obviously they wouldn't have had umbilical cords, but
Right. They have no reason to.
You know what? That might have been well, I guess people wouldn't be seeing their belly buttons. I was going to say that might be a neat, like, proof of who they were to the future generations.
Right.
Yeah, but I doubt they'd be walking around with their belly buttons showing. So that probably
They
not.
probably would have, to be honest.
Oh, you think so?
Yeah. I don't think there was much modesty happening in the first couple of generations.
Oh, really?
People.
Well,
no, I mean, they're having sex with demons. So, and like every thought they have at all times is evil, and the atmosphere of the globe is probably way more nice. And
they did clothe themselves, though,
Well,
so
God made them. They only clothe themselves because of their shame. They were shameful.
Right. And they just were using leaves, so covering up not so much, probably.
Right.
Okay.
Literally just the fun bit. Probably not even the breast. So probably just the genitals.
Okay.
Yeah. I doubt most people wore shirts, male or female. They probably just had like loincloths.
Okay.
I think God
I guess
actually
we do see that
them.
in
I think God made tunics for them. I don't know if they actually kept those tunics and used them throughout the generations. So, yeah. But anyway, thank you for the teleportation fund. Appreciate it. Appreciate it, brother. All the money goes towards my wife being able to be a stay-at-home mom and me being able to do this way more often. So, appreciate it. Anyway. Yeah, I mean, if they may have had belly buttons, they have no reason to have belly buttons. They serve no purpose. So,
well, they're just gosh darn adorable, though.
So the funny thing about the passed down as birthright, I'm entirely ignoring your navel comment. So the passed down as birthright is interesting because there's the saying of it was later believed that the Garden of Eden was in heaven. This is where the Quran's getting it from. And there was a Syriac belief, it was a Christian belief, that there were garments of paradise that Adam and Eve were wearing that was literally passed down throughout each generation. And Joseph had a special magical amulet as well as a special coat. And inside that special magical amulet had the tunic of Adam. So whenever whenever Israel is losing his eyesight later on, he actually throws his tunic at his face, and that restores his sight because he has a garment of paradise and it smells like paradise, whatever that means.
This is Islamic or rabbinic, you're saying, Chris?
Both. Well, it's Syriac, so it's
Syriac, okay.
Christian motifs that made its way into Islam.
Okay.
Joseph Whitsom makes the case that that is all Syriac tradition. So he wrote his PhD on the Syriac milieu of the Quran. So the Syriac context and culture of the Quran. That's part of his list of the Syriac influences on the Quran.
Okay.
Yeah. And we also have Laura donating $2 for the fund. Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah. So that is the Enochian view. I'm I don't know. I don't put that much stock into Enoch, to be honest. Anyway, so Adam is the son of God. He's also the first groom. So there's some typology within marriage itself. Marriage is pretty based. So Jesus is the bridegroom of the church. God calls himself the groom of Israel in Ezekiel, plus a bunch of other passages.
And
Psalms and
husband,
whatnot.
yeah.
Husband, yeah. If marriage is made to represent our relationship to God, then it means polygamy is not part of God's design, and that's a good thing. So lots of different things. Just going through my notes on that. But Paul actually quotes in Ephesians 5. I guess I could go to it. No, I have the Bible. I have the Bible on my screen. Oh wait. Okay. I keep turning off my copy and paste command on my mouse because I have a smooth scroll and it just breaks it.
Oh.
Anyway, because we are members of his body, talking about the church. For this reason, a man shall leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. This is Echad. And in Hebrew here, I believe it's mana or Ias.
It's Greek,
okay.
you mean?
In Greek, yeah, sorry. This mystery is great, but I am speaking with reference to Christ and the church. So, nevertheless, each individual among you must also love his own wife, even as he loved himself. So, the Christ and the church is representative of Adam and Eve. So, whenever we look at the relationship, we should see some form of typology. And whenever you do that, you see typology. It's pretty cool. So, they do become one flesh. We are one with Christ. We are adopted heirs into sonship. And we are, yeah. But let's go through this. So Eve means mother of all, roughly speaking. She is the mother of the living. And Adam's bride represents basically humanity. So the mother of the living represents all of humanity. That's, pretty nice. So all of those who are a part of the relationship, part of the oneness with Christ, they are in that relationship. Sorry, I have a big lengthy thing in my notes right there.
That's weird. Usually
Reading
you
a
just have a
paragraph.
couple things to do.
I know. I do actually. So I guess I'll read my notes for this section. The first groom, Eve means mother of all. So Adam's bride represents all of humanity, and Jesus is our husband. Eve was disobedient and rebellious to her husband. Part of the curse is women wanting the natural and correct authority of men. This applies to all of humanity coveting the authority and position of God while also trying to become him. So just as Eve is coveting Adam in the way that's unnatural and sinful, we covet God in a way that's unnatural and sinful. We want to, like the Bezoses and the what's his face with the super god complex that funds all the political movements that hate the world. George Soros. He has a deep god complex that he emits.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, whenever we are, rebellious against God, we are like Eve to Adam. We lust after his position, his authority, his power, all that stuff. Even though it's not good for us, we should just be humble and happy in the place that we are. But our pride and our lustful desires make us rebellious. We also get Adam is sleeping before Eve is formed, just as Christ sleeps in death before the church is formed. The church is formed from the side of Christ, and Adam, is side of Adam. So you have like the bone motif, but like Christ was pierced in his side, Adam was pierced in order to retrieve the material that God used to make Eve. So you get all that. But the two things I really want to point out, which are cool, is the coat of skin in Genesis 3, and the serpents and the cross. So, as we mentioned earlier, wood is very much related to the cross, it's related to Christ, it's related to all those things. Whenever we look at what happened in the garden, Adam sinned with a tree. He sinned with wood. He sinned with the fruit of wood. Christ redeemed us with a tree. So we have the motif of wood appearing over and over and over again, with the cursing of a tree being like, and then, in the New Testament talks about how Christ had his sins nailed, or our sins are nailed to the cross of Christ. Anyone who's hung on a pole is cursed, and Christ became a curse to save us. So where the curse came from wood, the curse was destroyed by wood. It's pretty cool. And then, in talking about the serpent and the messianic lineage and line, Yahweh God said to the serpent, because you have done this, cursed are you more than any of the cattle and more than every beast of the field. On your belly you will go, and dust you will eat all the days of your life. I will put enmity between you and the woman, between your seed and her seed. He shall bruise you on the head, you shall bruise him on the heel. I like the NIV's wording of that better, is he shall crush your head. He absolutely does. So you have that. Obviously is a prophecy of the Messiah, which Eve thought was fulfilled in Cain, which absolutely wasn't. We'll go through that in a second. Oh yeah, also the tree of life with the cross. Yeah. It's pretty cool. Yeah. It's pretty amazing. Also, hey Mary. Nice to see you. But the first sacrifice is pretty amazing as well. Also thorns and thistles it shall grow for you. So again, like sin nature coming up out of the earth and all these things, and thorns inside of Christ, and it's pretty cool. Then Yahweh God made garments of skin for Adam and his wife, and he clothed him. And Yahweh God said, behold, the man has become like one of us, to know good and evil. Now lest he send forth his hand and take also from the tree of life and eat and live forever. So the garments of skin is, I believe, the same verbiage as what is being used for the tabernacle. So we have on the tabernacle, we have garments of skin that are colored by the dye of the crimson worm, which I made a video on, but the crimson worm itself is a type of Christ. So we have a type of Christ for a type of Christ for a type of Christ in the tabernacle. Then with that, we have the garments of skin for Adam and his wife. So God invented clothing to cover your nakedness. Your clothing should cover your nakedness. Be modest. Anyway, the garments here are probably from an animal like a lamb. If I know the heart of God, he probably used a lamb to sacrifice, but this is the first sacrifice, and God makes the first sacrifice and God makes the last sacrifice. He makes the first sacrifice that covered sin temporarily for humanity, for Adam, and he made the last sacrifice which covered sin permanently for Adam. It's pretty amazing. So we have all sorts of stuff with that.
Chris, do you have a magical translate thing you can do on there? Because I've never really paid attention. Kothnoth or, so kothnoth, obviously that's like a tunic, but that word or I'm not familiar with. What is that word specifically?
Skin.
Just skin? Because usually like basar, I thought is like.
It could just be leather. It's mostly skins, but also leather sometimes.
Okay.
Ram skin dyed red. So this is literally just leather.
Okay. So I'm wondering. Yeah. So
Yeah.
like it's
But hey, look
been.
at that. This is the type of Christ right there. Huh.
Mm.
Imagine that. What is it dyed red from? The crimson worm. Anyway, so this is the tabernacle. Pretty fun little side tangent for that. But yes. So going through that, and then I'm sure there's a bunch of other things you can point out. With Eden, especially. You have the coats of skin being the sacrifice. Eve was designed for partnership with Adam, and just as the Christ, like the church is not an afterthought. The church was designed in order to bring in the fullness of the Gentiles, fullness of humanity into loving relationship with God. So Eve was not an accident. She wasn't, afterthought. God, I'm assuming, always intended to make male and female because he made male and female of everything else. But he does it in a way. So again, there's a lot of details, there's a lot of wording, there's a lot of particulars of the Old Testament that doesn't make any sense whatsoever until you look at Jesus. And it's like, oh yeah, I can see that. Same with like the Isaac thing, like your son, your only son whom you love. That's not true. That's a false statement in the Bible, in the inspired word of God. Why? To point to Christ. It's pretty interesting. So, yeah. I was seeing if I had anything else for Eve that was interesting. I haven't already talked about, and does not look like it. But the tree of life is interesting. It gives life, and to us, we'll eat again of it according to Revelation. We will eat and live forever. But Jesus's work, so like fruit is the work of a tree. The fruit that they were eating from in the garden is the fruit of life. It is the fruit of the Spirit. It's the fruit of what, brings us life and relationship and flourishing and all these things. And the garden of life is able, or the tree of life is able to provide that for us. So Jesus is that. It's pretty cool. But let's go through Abel. So Abel, on his part, was also the firstborn of his flock, or brought the firstborn of his flock. Let's go back a little bit. Now the man knew Eve, knew him, his wife Eve, and she conceived and gave birth to Cain, and she said, I have gotten a man with the help of Yahweh. So this is the language here, as we went over several weeks ago, was messianic. She believed that Cain was the Messiah to come that would crush the head of the snake. He didn't. He actually ended up being like an anti-Messiah, which is pretty interesting. And then she gave birth again to Abel, and Abel was a shepherd. So we have the shepherd son, who is, he probably would have been the one the Messiah was going to come through until he was killed by the one who was the thought of Messiah, but actually the false Messiah. We have Abel is a keeper of the flocks, and Cain is a cultivator of the ground. That will come up in a second. Abel brought the firstborn of his flock. So Jesus is the firstborn of God. And we have here the firstborn of the flock, a lamb to be slain. So the firstborn lamb, again, is slain. And Yahweh has regard for his sacrifice, for his offering. And then for the offerings of Cain, the offerings of the man of the ground, he didn't. Why? Because your works are not good enough. Your works are not what actually saves you. Your works don't do anything. It is the firstborn lamb of God that actually saves you. And we see that also with the curse. Cain is cursed in a very unique way. He's cursed in a way that's actually a blessing as well, because he's not able to produce of the land. That's the curse. But he's also protected from death, from revenge, from all those things. Jerusalem there is actually kind of mirroring that same thing. It's pretty cool. So, I don't actually have that up there. Oh, where is that in my notes? I like the way I worded it, so I was just going to reread what I worded there. Ariel was a shepherd, and he made a presented an offering that was pleasing to God. He was hated by his brother without cause, kind of like Joseph. This is again getting into the Joseph typology, which will be hours long. Like, if you think any of the stuff we're talking about tonight is cool, Joseph, man, that's like 12, 13 chapters of just Jesus. Just straight up Jesus. It is amazing. Pretty cool. Cain was jealous of his brother Abel, and he killed him for it, just as the Pharisees were jealous of his brother and killed him for it, were jealous of Jesus' fellow leader and killed him for it. Abel didn't die a natural death. He was slain. Jesus was slain and met a violent end. The punishment of the murderer is interesting. So the earth no longer yielded its fruit for Cain. Jerusalem no longer had its sacrifices accepted after Christ. So for 40 years, from 30 AD to 70 AD, according to Jews, their sacrifices were not accepted. So for 40 years before the temple was destroyed, their Yom Kippur sacrifices remained red. It didn't become white. God did not accept their sacrifices after Christ, just as he didn't accept the work of the hands of Cain. My nose is itchy. So, pretty cool. Mentioned all those. Oh, Hebrews 11. So let's go back to that. Hebrews 11:4 is relevant for this. By faith, Abel offered to God a better sacrifice than Cain, through which he was approved as being righteous, God proving his gifts, and through faith, though he is dead, he still speaks. The wording here is a bit weird, but it's talking about his blood.
Mm-hmm.
His blood is speaking. It's giving a better word. I think that was the exact passage there. No, it's the next chapter on his blood speaking. But he was a better sacrifice. He is approved and he's righteous. So he's a righteous shepherd giving gifts for God through faith. And his deeds speak. Then in the next chapter, it gets a little bit more explicit. Into Jesus. So I guess I'll go back for context. And you have come to Mount Zion, and to the city of the living God, the heavenly Jerusalem, and the myriads of angels, to the festival gathering and assembly of the firstborn who are enrolled in heaven, and to God, the judge of all, and to the spirits of the righteous made perfect, and to Jesus, the mediator of a new covenant, and the sprinkled blood, which speaks better than the blood of Abel. So the sprinkling of blood is redemption, it is purification, it is atonement. It's all those things in the old covenants. So the new covenant has a new sprinkling of blood, being the cross, and it speaks better than the blood of Abel. Why is it saying that? Well, here, whenever he is slain, Yahweh says, your brother's blood is crying out to me. So the blood of Jesus is crying out. It's still speaking, but instead of speaking judgment, saying, hey, I was slain, now Jesus' blood is speaking in the throne room of heaven on Judgment Day, saying this person is innocent. It is speaking a better word. Rather than the blood condemning, the blood is providing a way out. It is purifying. It is forgiving. It is justifying. It is saying, this is my son whom I love. It is providing a way out in the courtroom of heaven whenever you have no way, whenever your hands are stained, whenever you are covered in muck and mud and disgustingness. The blood of Jesus is speaking a better word on your behalf in front of the Father. So, pretty cool.
Superb.
It's very much, yes. I missed chat for a little bit, but how big is the sheep of Adam is 90 feet tall. Yeah. The Eve Mary connection is interesting. So this is part of the thing you should never create new doctrines based on typology. So I think the Catholic typology for Mary oftentimes is based on, like, it creates new doctrine that I don't think should be there, such as the Queen Mother role, which if you actually look at the typology, it is painfully bad. because not only is that the only time it happens, the person who was seeking, what's the word for it? Wow, my brain is breaking today. Whenever you are praying on behalf of someone else,
Intercession.
intercession. Thank you. Not only is that the only time we see intercession being done by the kings, by the Queen Mother, the person who was seeking intercession was killed for doing so. So there's lots of times where the like, Mary's the Queen Mother is rejected. Yeah. There's a lot of times where typology is used painfully stupidly throughout history, and we need to be very careful. You cannot use typology to get new doctrine. That's not, unless something is explicitly stated in the New Testament, do not use typology to create some weird new thing, because not everything is a type of Christ. There's lots of things that the typology breaks down very quickly, and you get to a weird, different place to be. Yeah, literally, yes. Yeah, Bathsheba unknowingly got her stepson executed. Yeah, fun times. But with that, you have other typologies, so like Mary being the Ark of the Covenant, Mary being the new Eve. If Jesus Christ is the new Adam, if Mary's the new Eve, that would be incest. The church is the new Eve. The church is Eve, not Mary. Now, if you want to say, oh, if it's the prophecy side of it, yeah, but that's not typology. That's prophecy. It's different. The prophecy of the seed of the woman shall crush the head of the snake. You can say that's Mary. You can also just say that's Eve. You don't have to even make it. You don't have to include Mary into that. You can just say the seed of the woman was eventually Christ. And it was Eve's seed that still did it. Because it was her giving birth to humanity. Humanity is the one that crushed Satan. So, yeah. Anyway. We need to be very careful with how we use typology, because it's very fast and loose. Now, that being said, is typology even legitimate then? I want to go through a couple places in the New Testament real quick.
Yeah, good idea, Chris.
Yeah. Guess who does typology?
Those words look red to me, Chris.
They do look red indeed, yes. Typology is done by Christ multiple times, actually. The road of Emmaus is also typology, more than likely. Because he says, starting in the Torah, well, how much of the Torah is explicitly prophecy about Christ? Not much. Very little, in fact, but it's a ton of typology. It's the most typologically heavy book of the Bible. So we see a ton of stuff in the Torah that would be pointing to Christ. So many places, not only, is like Christophanies, like Jesus physically appears to people, but there's so much typology. Here is one of the times that he is doing typology with the Torah specifically. If I told you earthly things and you do not believe, how will you believe if I tell you heavenly things? And no one has ascended into heaven, but he who descended from heaven, the Son of Man. And as Moses lifted up the servant in the wilderness, even so must the Son of Man be lifted up, so that whoever believes in him will have eternal life. This is Jesus doing typology of himself. And this is, the word typology comes from, I believe, Paul's writings in the epistles. But we have Paul using the term shadow. We also have Paul using the term type. Shadow in Colossians 2 is more in reference to Plato, because he's doing a commentary on Greek philosophy. But there's other places where he uses the word type, and that is where we get typology from. Now, if we go to Moses lifting up the serpent, real quick in Numbers, let's read the passage and we can see the typology unfolding in real time. And Moses made a bronze serpent. So let's go back a little bit. Then the people came to Moses and said, we have sinned because we have spoken against Yahweh and against you. Pray to Yahweh that he may remove the serpents. Oh, let me go back even more. Okay, this is why they're complaining. So Israel made a vow to Yahweh and said, if you will indeed give this people into my hand, then I will devote their cities to destruction. Then Yahweh heard the voice of Israel and gave the Canaanites over. So they devoted them and their cities to destruction. Thus the name of the place was called Hormah. Then they set out from Mount Horeb by the way of the Red Sea to go around the land of Edom, and the people became impatient on the way. And the people spoke against God and Moses. Why have you brought us up out of Egypt to die in the wilderness? For there is no food and no water, and we loathe this miserable food. They are literally getting sweet bread from heaven and water, probably the purest water you can imagine. But we loathe this miserable food. This is going to be significantly better bread than what you're eating right now with your matzah. I can't even imagine. Bread is my favorite food, just about. Bread and pasta. Carbs are delicious. I would love to try manna, but we loathe this miserable food. So Yahweh sent fiery serpents among the people, and they bit the people so that many people of Israel died. Then the people came to Moses and said, we have sinned because we have spoken against Yahweh and against you. Pray to Yahweh that he may remove the serpents from us. And Moses prayed for the people. Then Yahweh said to Moses, make a fiery serpent and set it on a standard, on a flag, on a wooden pole. And it will be that everyone who is bitten and looks at it will live. And Moses made a bronze serpent and set it on the standard. And it happened that if a serpent bit any man, when he looked to the bronze serpent, he lived. So this serpent was eventually worshipped by the Jews, and then God said for it to be destroyed.
Which is so sad. Because
Interesting.
it's like, how cool would that be to find that? You know what I mean?
Oh yeah,
They
I
had
know.
it for
Yeah.
so long, and then
Right. Like hundreds of years they had this
Yeah.
thing. And then people started worshiping it, so God had it destroyed.
I remember when I
Because God
first
doesn't
read
like
that, and I was
idols.
like, no.
It is in fact a gibbet. Yeah.
Well, it particularly in this the Hebrew here, it's nace, which is another word they use for like a flagpole, basically,
Right.
or a
It's
flag even.
literally what it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's also what it means in English, the standard. So whenever we look at the beginning of Numbers and we look at the cross in the sky, which I went over a couple streams ago, where the beginning of Numbers, the size of each of the camps actually makes a cross, which is really cool to look at. The wood that they would use for the flags, because they didn't have metal poles, for that at least, they would have wooden poles for it. So this is a wooden pole that is used to hold up a bronze serpent. Jesus Christ is described as having bronze on his feet, which is pretty amazing. So he has like bronze on him, but this is a serpent. The people are sinning against God, right? They're sinning against God. What's the punishment of sin?
Death.
The people here are being bitten by snakes, specifically venomous snakes that are fiery venom. This could be literal, like fire-breathing serpents, like dragons, or it could be that their venom causes you so much pain because there are some like necrotic venoms that literally make you feel like you're burning alive. Very much not a fun experience.
Yeah.
Very much not a fun experience.
You ever been bitten by a venomous snake, Chris?
I've never been bitten by a snake, but I have picked up many of them.
Okay.
And stepped on several. I've yeeted some cottonmouths in my life.
Oh, really?
But yeah, there was one. It was sleeping because I would just. So I lived in the woods for a while. That's the best way I could describe it. For like years of my life, all my teenage years, I was in the woods like 8 to 10 hours a day. Whenever I wasn't in school. So we had forts back there. We did hoodlum stuff back there. Both. Not going to talk about it on stream, but I would bring girls back there. We did stuff back there. Anyway, so in that, I would oftentimes be walking through trails in which snakes like to sleep. And I got pretty good at spotting snake dens. So one day I was just walking behind and I almost fully stepped on a coiled up, snoozing cottonmouth. But I didn't step on its head to kill it. I would have stepped on the middle of its body to annoy it and then make it instantly bite me.
Right.
Luckily, I noticed right before my foot got onto it, and I like propelled myself slowly, like I did a hop skip over it with my back foot, and then it woke up and it looked at me, and then I looked at it and it looked at me. I was like, don't come near me. And then it woke up and it looked at me, and then I looked at it and it looked at me. And then I looked at it and it looked at me. And then I looked at it and it looked at me. And then I looked at it and it looked at me. And then I looked at it and it looked at me. And then I looked at it and it looked at me. That one I didn't have to yeet, but there was one that was coming down off of a tree above me that I did have to pick up and then yeeted. That was pretty fun. Throwing snakes are pretty cool. Fun experience.
It's a new sport.
Anyway, snake handler. Yeah, I literally. So, here's tangent for the day. My dad and brothers went on a hunting trip up in North Dakota hunting pheasant and quail, or it was either pheasant or quail. They came back with a ton of quail, so I think it was just quail. And we had like a freezer full of just quail meat for years. We never ate it. It was just jam packed full of it. And that entire week, they were kind of struggling killing the birds, so they didn't have that much to begin with. So they were eating these mushrooms that they found on the trail. And they thought they were nice little tasty mushrooms that my parents like to hunt for. Not morsels. What is the name of those ones?
Morels?
Marcellos? Morels. My parents hunted for morels a lot as a kid. And they thought they were eating those. Turns out they weren't. A local came over and like, hey, don't eat those. Those will kill you. For 3 days, they were eating poisonous mushrooms almost primarily. Didn't die.
Wow.
They prayed over their food every day. Every time they ate, they would pray over their food. So yeah, my family had that, and then I've literally handled snakes and I've cast out demons. So like, and then I've also like eaten poisonous stuff and not had things happen to me. Been bitten by spiders that should have killed me. Lots of those type of experiences. So the whole thing of like the long ending of Mark of you shall do XXXXX and you live and not die and all that stuff. My family's like living examples of it. And I really need to like trim my mustache because it's tickling my nose hairs and it's driving me insane. Anyway.
So you heard it here, guys. Chris every day starts his day with 7 Ajwa dates. Right, Chris?
Oh man. Yeah.
Next he's gonna tell us he bathes in a dirty
at the
puddle with
wudu.
dead dogs
tampon
and
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I bathe next to it because my wife and I'm not gonna dude, women are gross, man. Women are nasty. Which is
and
crazy.
here's
It's like
a guess.
the used tampon is how God describes your sin. So think
Yeah.
about that for a moment. And it's not just a used tampon, it's all the stuff that comes out of women. And if you've never had the displeasure of just stumbling upon what that is literal like decaying flesh. Disgusting. It smells so bad. It like stains the bathroom walls with the stench of it. Anyway. But
And it doesn't
that's what
taste
God
good
calls
either.
our good works. It does not taste good, no. Yeah. If you're a married man and you're like, oh, it should be safe today.
Yeah, was not implying that,
Anyway.
Chris. This is a nice
I mean-
wholesome stream.
So it's an experience that men probably will have at least once in their life. Then they will make sure that it never happens again. But yeah, turns out that nasty discharge and whatnot can really stay up there for a while, and if a woman gets excited, it can come to the surface. If you just so happen to be doing something with your mouth at that moment, it's tasty. Anyway, so Steve turns camera. Anyway, this is back to the original with the snakes. We have the snakes here biting people, causing death. We have their venom injected into humanity, and we have our sin entering into our bodies and causing us to die. Sin that fully bores into our bodies causes death, as Paul says. Sin fully born out in our bodies causes death. Whenever the venom fully spreads throughout your body, you die. Excuse me while I puke now. I've had worse things go in my mouth. Anyway, so we have here the bronze serpent is essentially Christ lifted up, and also in in John 3, it says, whenever you see the Son of Man lifted up, you will be saved. So you have to see God lifted up on a pole, and then from that, you have the venom, the poison of this world, sin, be taken from you. And it's fiery. So you have like the fiery abode taken away from you, and you are given new life. So Christ himself does typology. Back to the original point, Christ himself does typology of himself. That's pretty amazing. So, is typology legitimate? Yes, it happens a lot in the New Testament. Is typology always correct? No. There might be things I say that you should absolutely push back on that are not true. Again, test all things, test your teachers. If I say something that's false, don't believe it. I'm not a perfect orator. I will mince words, and I will misremember things, and I will just straight up say things that are false that I didn't fully vet. It happens because there are like truisms that aren't actually true. Imagine that. Anyway, test things. So, your brother's blood is crying out to me. That is the end of Abel. Then we jump down and we see Enoch. So, going down with Genesis 5, Enosh, Kenan, Mahel, Jared, Enoch. Then Enoch walked with God 300 years after he became the father of Methuselah and became the father of other sons and daughters. All the days of Enoch were 365 years. Enoch walked with God, and he was not, for God took him. So we have Jesus being taken up alive. Enoch never died. Jesus died, resurrected, and went up there. There's a lot of belief that Enoch was like glorified, became Metatron. I think that's probably not true. But
Yeah, it
Enoch
was most
and
likely
Elijah,
Optimus Prime, I think.
Enoch and Elijah are the two people who went up to God without ever dying, and we have Elijah coming back down on the Transfiguration. Who knows if he actually died or if he just got a glorified body at that point? How in the world did those two get into heaven with their bodies physically, possibly glorified, without Christ? Well, the cross is, tetelestai. It is, it affects the past, affects the present, and will continue to affect the future. Those who died before Christ still have the cross applied to them, which is why Jesus went down to Hades to preach to the dead. It may have been, this is my tin hat speculative for the night, it may have been that Enoch and Elijah were shown visions of Christ, believed it, and they were accepted into heaven before he died because the cross is universally applied to all people. So it may have been that God showed them prophecy that was able to give them faith in Christ to then be saved. The same type of faith that we have now. And that God respected their faith at that moment in time. That's how they were accepted into heaven. Maybe they were glorified. Who knows?
Would you tie that in, Chris, with is it Revelation where it says it's the lamb that was slain from the foundation of the world? Where you would back apply the cross?
Yeah. Well, the Greek itself indicates that it was for all times, for all people. So the language of the New Testament itself indicates that is what was happening. Tetelestai indicates that.
Okay.
So like the "it is finished" is in the perfect tense in the Greek, which means it happened. It's something that affects the past, affects the present, and will continue to affect the future. So for all times in all places, it has been finished. The cross has achieved what it meant to do. But you get a bunch of places with Christ's death was always the plan, always the goal, always going to happen, and it affects all people. It's not just for the people that comes after him, it's for all people of all times. So anyway, yeah, it's always happening all the time. The sins I've not yet done have already been paid for by my faith in Christ on the cross. Yeah. The cross changed the entire timeline. Yeah.
It's kind of like the whole focal point of existence, really.
It is indeed, yes. I forgot to mention the serpent. Thank you for that. The bronze serpent. Why is a serpent used to do it? Well, the serpent was nailed to the wood. The serpent represents sin. The serpent represents rebellion. The serpent represents Eden. Christ, from Eden until forever onward, nailed it to the cross. Like we get that in, I believe, Colossians, where Christ took on our legal indebtedness and nailed the charges against us to the wood, to the cross. The bronze serpent there is nailed to the cross because the serpent represents sin. It's the sin of all of humanity being nailed to the wood, and whoever looks at it gets saved. It's not just that the serpent's there and then everyone is saved. You have to then partake in it. You have to then have relationship with it. You have to look at it. You have to know it, and then you're saved. Just as we have to know Christ in order to receive the salvation that's offered to us for free. But it's there, it's present, it's in front of you. God knows what you need to accept it, and he has it in front of you. You just have to take the time to do it. So atheists are like, oh, well, how can I believe in a God that knows exactly what it would take for me to believe and hasn't done it yet? It's like, well, what if he did and you just rejected it?
Right. Which is generally the case I've found when speaking with atheists. It's not that they can't fathom it or understand it, or it's just that they really just don't want it to be the case. And so they just kind of, that's why we've said it a couple times before. I don't think I've ever met an honest atheist. And I'm not saying there aren't any, but I have not met one, and I've not had conversations with any. It eventually always comes down to that they just don't want it to be true. And so they're going to basically plug their ears and say something else.
Yeah. No, people are. That's how I was as an atheist. Like that is exactly what I was doing. You just don't want it to be true. Like I hated the God that my parents believed in because I was not following my parents. So, yeah, Satanists are honest atheists. They're not atheists though.
Right. Some of them you could say, I mean, might say they are, and they use Satan as their like conduit for
Yeah,
behavior.
but
Uh,
I mean, no, they just worship Satan.
right.
I mean, a lot of them just straight up know it's demonic and are doing it intentionally.
Right.
Like rallies and
And the
whatnot.
thing is, like, even if they don't believe in it, that is still satanic behavior. And so they are actually still worshiping Satan, even if they don't personally acknowledge him as God. What they're doing is actual just emulating Satan. So
Mm. Yeah. Okay, so we have all the days of Enoch were 365 years. It's like, oh well, that represents 1 year for every day of the year. So it's like for all times, he's representing like not necessarily like the eternal one, but Enoch is one who walks with God and has perfect relationship with God, just as Christ has perfect relationship with the Father. And there is some belief that Enoch was like preaching, like he was a prophet. And if that is the case, then he is again a perfect judge or the perfect obedient servant of God and all these things. And Enoch is taken away before the flood, and Christ is taken away before the destruction of Jerusalem. So you have a lot of smaller types. There's some people who are just like in one way, they're good types of Christ, and there's other people like Isaac and like Joseph that are deep types of Christ. Moses too, David. Isaac, I forgot to mention this for Isaac too. Isaac, he didn't have a half of the sex cells he needed to be conceived. Christ also only had half. So Isaac had a sperm but didn't have an egg. Christ had an egg but didn't have a sperm. God miraculously implanted an embryo into the womb of both women, even though half of the sex cells required to make life were missing. So you have this promised, because Isaac was promised well over a year before he actually was given. So this was promised messianic lineage figure who has a miraculous birth, missing one sex cell, who is the loved son, who is sacrificed. And Isaac is such a great type of Christ, man. It's crazy.
Mhm.
Anyway, let's jump down to Noah a little bit. Noah has some interesting connections, and again, we get the wood.
Yeah.
All of humanity was saved through wood. Again, the ark made of wood saves, the cross made of wood saves. It's pretty based. Then the flood also resets creation. So we get this new life, this new humanity, this new creation, and the 8 figures representing resurrection. Because a lot of the like patristic writers saw, I think Christian Gadfly mentioned this whenever we're going through Genesis, but the 8th day, the Sunday, Jesus Christ was resurrected on essentially like the 8th day from Palm Sunday. He was resurrected on the day after the Sabbath. You have the 8 people coming out of the ark representing the new life, the resurrection. You have the dove as well coming out and signaling peace and all that stuff. And then you have the spirit descending onto Christ. And so you have the dove motif in both. Then you also, again, if you believe Noah was preaching righteousness the entire time, which the New Testament calls him a preacher of righteousness. Pull this up, yeah. So Noah, Second Peter 2:5 did not spare the ancient world, but preserved Noah, a preacher of righteousness with 7 others, when he brought a flood upon the world of the ungodly. So he may have been preaching to the people actively, or this might be myth. It's kind of hard to tell what he means by preacher of righteousness in this passage. Does he literally mean that Noah went around preaching to all the people, saying, hey, there is a flood coming, you will be destroyed, you will be killed? Or is this just like his actions, his deeds, proclaimed what is moral, what is right, not necessarily him like prophesying to the people? Well, Christ did both. Christ was sinless, and he also prophesied to the people. So he prophesied the destruction of the temple. He prophesied the coming end of the sacrifices, the coming end of all of that good, fun stuff. So Noah's a pretty cool dude. His name also means rest, and he brought rest to humanity. Yeah. Pretty cool dude. We could talk about the angel of Yahweh, although it's a bit weird because the angel of Yahweh is just Jesus. He's just God. And if you want a proof text for that, you can go to Genesis 16. And whenever it's talking, so it's now the angel of Yahweh found her by a spring of water in the wilderness, by the spring on the way to Shur. And he said, Hagar, Sarah's servant woman, where have you come from and where are you going? And she said, I'm fleeing from the presence of my mistress Sarai. Then the angel of Yahweh said to her, return to your mistress and humble yourself under her hands. Moreover, the angel of Yahweh said to her, I will greatly multiply your seed so that they will be too many to be counted. So now it's the angel of Yahweh who is doing this this multiplication. He's the one responsible for it. And then she says later on, then she called the name of Yahweh who spoke to her, you are a God who sees. For she said, I have seen and remain alive even after seeing him. Interestingly to note, the beginning of 13 is not, it's not someone saying that. It's commentary from Moses. So the angel of Yahweh and Yahweh are called the same figure by Moses, by the author of Genesis here. So we have him obviously being Yahweh, but not Yahweh, in a pretty interesting way. I have literally no idea what this person is saying. Why Colosseum has lived, Jesus dead, why earthquake? Do you mean why did the Colosseum survive the earthquake of Jesus' death? Is that what you mean? I mean, the Colosseum experienced the earthquake. We actually have writers in Rome that said that they felt the earthquake. So,
oh wow,
it was
really?
strong enough to be felt there. Yeah. I believe it is Lucian, but I can pull it up real quick. I have
That's
all
pretty
of the I wrote a gospel track called Confidence in Christ a while ago. I have every single quotation from a biographer on the death of Jesus and the resurrection. So, just going through that. Just Google earthquake. Okay, this is Flagon. He's 80 AD to 140 AD. And with regard to the this is in his book, this is Origen quoting him. Origen and against Celsius, book 2, chapter 33. And with regard to the eclipse in the time of Tiberius Caesar, in whose reign Jesus appears to have been crucified, and the great earthquakes then took place. So they are mentioning that. We also have Thales writing in Julius Africanus, quoting it in his chronography, chapter 18, paragraph 1. On the whole world there pressed a most fearful darkness, and the rocks were rent by an earthquake, and many places in Judea and other districts were thrown down. This darkness Thales, in the third book of his history, calls, as appears to me without reason, an eclipse of the sun. So
Wow.
Thales calls it an eclipse of the sun, but it is a very long eclipse, an unusually long eclipse, and there was an earthquake. And then you also have another description of it. But we have people writing from Rome saying that it happened, which is pretty cool. Same with the eclipse. So pretty based stuff there. Anyway, the angel of Yahweh, obviously Jesus. Why Nero and Paul? What are you talking about, my guy? What? Okay, sure. Yeah, you do you. If you want to rephrase your text or put it in ChatGPT and have it translate for you, I'm sure it would be better. I assume you don't speak English as your native tongue. If you want to have that translated by an AI, it'd probably be easier to understand. Right now, your questions are not making sense. So, the angel of Yahweh obviously is Jesus. It claims to be God, and yet not God. It accepts worship. It accepts sacrifices. It gives the law. It gives the law. It leads the Israelites out of Egypt, and it makes a bunch of covenants. One of the places you can go to for the angel of Yahweh being God is Judges 2, verse 1. Then the angel of Yahweh came up from Gilgal to Bochum, and he said, I brought you up out of Egypt and led you into the land which I have sworn to your fathers, and I said, I will never break my covenant with you. So he is the one that is saying, I will never break my covenant with you. This is again quoting Deuteronomy and Leviticus. So you have that, but this is the angel of Yahweh claiming to be the one who brings them out of Egypt and led you into the land. So this is the person in the pillar of cloud and the fire who Yahweh says that my name is in him. Do not disobey him or you will be destroyed. So obviously Jesus. And then you can also go to Jude 4 and 5 makes the connection. So, for certain persons have crept in unnoticed, those who were long beforehand marked out for this condemnation, ungodly persons who turn the grace of our God into sensuality and deny our only Master and Lord Jesus Christ. Now, I want to remind you, though you know all things, that Jesus, having once saved a people out of the land of Egypt, subsequently destroyed those who did not believe. This is the early manuscripts actually have Jesus. The later manuscripts have Kyrios as Lord. But Jesus is the only Lord. So either if it's Jesus or Lord here, it doesn't matter. It's Jesus. But he is alluding to Judges 2. So he's identifying the angel of Yahweh with Jesus, his brother, and calls him God. So who did Jesus say he was? Well, his brother thought he was God. And also the angel of Yahweh. So, descendant to Dawood. Yeah. How Jesus lived in Bethlehem, Palestine? Palestine didn't exist at the time. was way after, and even then it was Syria, Palestina. If I remember correctly, it was after that. Over 100 years after that, it didn't exist. It was in Judea. That's what you mean. Yeah, Philistia was entirely pagan and debased. Yeah. Yes, he absolutely did fulfill the prophecy of the Messiah. Judea, why Israeli or Palestinian? I don't know what that guy's on about.
Yeah, I think we need a little bit more clarity in your statements. Read map. I am sorry. It's I I hope this is just a funny joke.
No, I think he just doesn't speak English.
Well, but you can't say
But
I am
I
smart
am
like
smart.
that.
It's a little off kilter, but it's fine. It's fine. Um,
This sounds like a weird bilingual ad lib or mad lib. I mean, those funny like.
why understand Rome? Who? Yeah. Again, if you want to feed your stuff through an AI to better converse with us, I'm fine with that. Anyway, so I want to get past this. Oh, is it 14 with Melchizedek? 13. Where's Melchizedek?
Melchizedek
It's
is.
not 12. It's after that. It's in the Battle of the Valley. I thought that was 13. No, it's 14.
It is 14.
Yeah, I jumped to 14. I just didn't see it, I guess. Okay. So Melchizedek. Pretty based. What does Melchizedek mean?
Malchizedek, my king is righteous.
Mm-hmm. Another way we can say that is the king of righteousness.
Mm.
And he's also the king of Salem. So he is a righteous king of Salem. Peace. He's the king of peace. So Prince of Peace, King of Righteousness. When this world on a was see Africa of Pyramid Egypt? Why is that a question? This is typology, not mapology.
As soon he's gonna start asking us for our bank number so he can route us the billions that he inherited from his dead Nigerian queen mother.
Anyway, so we have the King of Righteousness, the King of Peace, bringing out bread and wine to because he is the priest of God Most High. So God Most High is obviously Yahweh here. He's a priest. What order is Melchizedek in?
Right, not the Levitical one.
Not the Levitical one. He's in his own order. And we see this in the Psalms. I want to go to NIV. I believe it's Psalm 110. If I am not mistaken.
Made you a priest after the order of Melchizedek.
Mm-hmm. So Yahweh has sworn and will not change his mind. You are a priest forever according to the order of Melchizedek. Well, this is a weird statement. Melchizedek only appears a handful of times in the entire Bible. I think it's only like 3 or 4. It's 2. Literally 2. His name only appears twice. And then it appears in the New Testament, but not in Hebrew, which is why it's not popping up here. If I pull down the Greek, it'll show up in the Greek too. But his actual name only pops up in 2 places. And it's so weird. Why in the world is the Messiah a priest forever? It's an eternal Messiah in the order of Melchizedek instead of Aaron or Levi.
Right.
Because the covenants are through Aaron and Levi. The temple service, the sacrifices are done through Aaron and Levi. But whenever we look at what's actually happening in this passage, we get that he blesses Abraham, and then Abraham tithes to him. He gave him a tenth of all he had. You tithe to the person who's greater than you. Make the text a little bit bigger. You tithe to the person who's greater than you. And this is showing that Christ, because this comes up in Hebrews, this is showing that Christ's priesthood is greater than the Levitical priesthood. It's greater than the Aaronic priesthood. Because the patriarch, Abraham, is tithing to Melchizedek, to this priestly system. And then that priestly system is applied to the Messiah, who is an eternal priest. So we get in the New Testament, again, this is typology of the New Testament. Hebrews does typology of Christ with Melchizedek. He doesn't have genealogy, he has no mother or father, he has no beginning and end. And through that, we see Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
I'll bring up that passage since we're supposed to be doing the slow read through. But we have it here. I guess this whole thing is probably about that. Yeah, let's just read the whole section. For this Melchizedek, king of Salem, priest of the Most High God, who met Abraham as he was returning from the slaughter of the kings and blessed him, to whom also Abraham appointed a tenth part of all, was first of all, by the translation of his name, King of Righteousness, and then also King of Salem, which is also King of Peace. Without father, without mother, without genealogy, having neither beginning of days nor end of life, but made like the Son of God, he remains a priest continually. Now observe how great this man was, to whom Abraham the patriarch gave a tenth of the spoils. And those indeed of the sons of Levi who receive the priest office have a commandment in the law to collect a tenth from the people, that is, from their brothers, although these are a descendant of Abraham. But the one whose genealogy is not traced from them had collected a tenth from Abraham and blessed the one who had the promises. But without any dispute, the lesser is blessed by the greater. And in this case, mortal men received tithes. But in the case one receives them, of whom it is witnessed that he lives on. And so to speak, through Abraham, even Levi, who received tithes, paid tithes, for he was still in the loins of his father when Melchizedek met him. This is obviously not true, but it's an exaggeration. Now, if perfection was through the Levitical priesthood, for on the basis of it people receive the law, what further need was there for another priest to arise according to the order of Melchizedek, and not be designed according to the order of Aaron? For when the priesthood is changed, of necessity there takes a place a change of law also. That is a weird way to word that. I like the NIV's wording significantly more than the LSB here. I'm still getting used to the LSB. The LSB has some really wonky. It's a very literal translation, so the word order is sometimes very wonky. The NIV and the ESV are both way easier to read than the LSB, but it's useful for very literal studies, especially if you're doing like Hebrew to English.
Yeah.
It's useful for that, but reading it is painful sometimes. Anyway, yeah, so this is typology again in the New Testament of Jesus with Melchizedek. And we have the bread and the wine again. So we have the sacrifices being bread and wine. Why in the world is there bread and wine and a tithing in the Old Testament? It's amazing. It's awesome. And as Sarah said before Abraham was, I am. This is Christ. Now, what is your opinion on if Melchizedek is literally Christ or if he's just a type?
I think he's a type. That would be my opinion. Just because it just seems that way, I think.
Right.
And also with the way he's used, it's used as an example or like a shadow or a type, instead of directly pointing out that this was that,
Right.
So that's why I
Yeah.
generally take it as a real person. I think we went over. I thought it was that it could have been Shem, Noah's son.
Yeah, it could be. He was alive at the time. He dies soon after that, though. So whether or not the King of Righteousness is literally his name, or if it's just talking about a king who is righteous.
Mhm.
If it is Shem, that would mean that God put him in charge of Jerusalem up until the Jews like take it over. So it's or I guess till the Canaanites take it over, then the Jews take it back. But there's
Yeah,
a
under
righteous king
David.
over Jerusalem. Yeah. There's a righteous king under Jerusalem or over Jerusalem at the time of Abraham. Which is pretty interesting because at the time of the, you know, Joshua and the judges, there is not a righteous kingdom in Israel.
Right.
It's all Canaanite. So 600 years before that, there is a righteous king in Israel over Jerusalem. It's pretty awesome. Yeah, pretty cool. I don't think there's anything else I had for that. Yeah. The bread, the wine, the wood, sacrifices, burnt offering, a lamb. Those are all the common features of types. Joseph gets pretty much all of those, which is pretty cool.
Hmm.
But anyway, we'll go through Joseph. Joseph is going to take so long. So long. In this section, though, we do get another thing with Abraham. So if we go through the typology of Abraham, which might be the last type we point out here. Looking at my notes for Isaac real quick before I go back. He's the child of promise. He's conceived miraculously. He has the covenant established through his sacrifice. He carried the wood. He was willingly bound. He was sacrificed on the Temple Mount, which is pretty amazing.
Hmm.
He had two sons, one loved more than the other, and the promise was through the younger. Gained full inheritance of the father, was the only loved by his father, and yeah, had one bride picked out for him by the father. Isaac, pretty cool type. Pretty based. Here, though, we see Abraham commanding an army. Christ is the commander of heaven's armies, as we get in the beginning of Joshua. Why do we think that it is actually Christ at the beginning of Joshua? Well, what happens? He says, is it Joshua 1 or 2? Where is it?
2.
It might be commander of heaven. Oh, wait. No, it's not. Commander of. Let's go down. Scroll. I guess I gotta search. Hold on. I'll search Google. Joshua, commander of heaven's armies. 5.
Okay.
Off of that. It's still towards the beginning, just not.
Yeah.
Before all the massive warfare. So they're approaching Jericho. And now it happened when Joshua was by Jericho, they lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, a man was standing opposite with him with his sword drawn in his hand. This also happens to Balaam and David. And Joshua went to him and said to him, "Are you for us or are you for our adversaries?" He said, "No, rather I indeed come now as commander of the host of Yahweh." So he's the commander of the armies of God. And Joshua fell on his face to the earth and bowed down and said to him, "What has my Lord to say to his slave?" The commander of the host of Yahweh said to Joshua, "Remove your sandals from your feet, for the place where you're standing is holy." And Joshua did so. This is obviously relating back to Exodus 3 with the removing of the sandals, where he approaches the burning bush and Yahweh looks and says, "You're not coming any closer. Remove your sandals from where you're standing, for the place in which you stand on is holy ground." So this is probably God, and he's also the commander of the host of Yahweh. He's the commander of heaven's armies, which is, I think, given to Michael as well. But this
Yeah,
is
and
probably Jesus.
yeah, well, with the falling down on the face and everything, and it
Right.
not being corrected.
Right. It seems to be God.
Hmm.
But it's pretty cool. he has a sword. And there's another place where the angel of the Lord slaughters an entire camp of the enemy of Israel. So like your hippy dippy Jesus that doesn't want violence or bloodshed or anything like that. He's the one that called burning sulfur down on Sodom and Gomorrah, and he's the one that slayed the enemy with the sword. Reincarnate. So before Jesus took on human flesh, he had already killed men with a sword. That's crazy. Crazy. So whenever he comes back and he has a sword for a tongue and eyes that shine like fire and terrifying, and like the description of Revelation of Jesus, pretty insane. Is Jesus the angel of death at Passover? What's your take on this?
I don't think so. I haven't thought too much on it, but it doesn't seem like it to me, just in the reading of it. Uh,
Mm,
so and usually when it's because it doesn't specify it as the angel of the Lord, so
right,
we know that, which doesn't disqualify it from being pre-incarnate Jesus, but
right, because he
it
appears in
just
other forms.
mhm.
Yeah,
But it doesn't seem like it just I don't know, something about it doesn't seem. What do you think?
I lean towards no, but I keep having people tell me that it was. I'm like, I mean, I guess it could be,
Mm-hmm.
but the blood of the lamb is also meant to like represent that. But Jesus is also our judge,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and maybe our executioner on Judgment Day.
Mm-hmm.
So I would lean towards no, but that's one that I have no reason to say yes or no to. I
Yeah,
just leave it
same.
as I have no idea. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
sure. I wouldn't be surprised if it was, but I have absolutely zero reason to say that it is,
Right,
other
right.
than speculation. So
Mm-hmm.
I'll leave it at that. Um, okay. William guy is an interesting character. Anyway,
Yes.
Abraham is a commander of an army. He had 318 men that he went in and he struck the enemy and he routed them and he saved the people of the valley. So he is a military commander. He sacrifices his son in obedience, which we went through already, and he makes the covenant between him and God, between man and God. We went over this last time in chapter 17 with the smoking fire pit. That's
Uh-huh.
Exodus again. Keeps happening. Um, so he makes the covenant with him as an everlasting possession, and then Israel represents the church in a lot of ways, like the land, the covenant, the people, the women. Um, all those people typically represent the church. Uh, Here we have God giving an everlasting covenant relationship with his seed, with Israel, with the church. So we have like Abraham and the bride, Sarah, producing all these things. It's like, oh, it's like tangentially related to our Christ's bride being the church and a promised church that was prepared beforehand for him and will
Mm-hmm.
dwell with him forever. And interesting things. There's some interesting things with Sarah. Before I get to that, I apparently missed it. Oh, it's 15, not 17. Oh, my brain. A smoking oven and flaming torch pass between these pieces. And we have that day Yahweh cutting a covenant with Abraham. So Yahweh established a covenant based on the faithfulness of Abraham, and Yahweh established a covenant based on the faithfulness of Jesus to save humanity. Here, for this covenant, was for the messianic line, and then Jesus fulfilled the messianic line, and then did all those things. Also, we have the sun setting at that moment, so that's pretty cool. The sky was darkened whenever Jesus was on the cross. Here we have the sky darkened whenever this covenant is being established, and the covenant is established with all the clean animals being cut and then arranged in a hallway. And then you have this flaming torch passing between the pieces. And we went over 2 weeks ago how this shows that God will be the one who is slain to fulfill the covenant whenever Abraham's seed breaks it. So whenever the Jews break the covenant, Yahweh dies to fulfill it. So that is not necessarily prophecy, not necessarily typology, but it's like a thing that points to Christ.
Mhm.
But there's a lot of stuff with Abraham that it's pretty cool. Has a hot wife, as we've gone over a bunch. The church is pretty based whenever it's actually working properly. The church produces a lot of based people, a lot of awesome things. He has a desirable bride, but that bride was given over to Gentiles, and the Gentiles abused it. Well, maybe abused it. They at least made it into their own image, their own desire. Interestingly, this is something that I thought of. He has a bride that's smoking hot that is taken from him twice and given to Gentiles. God has a temple that's destroyed twice by Gentiles.
Oh yeah.
That's interesting.
Mhm.
Could represent the temple. And he actually parted ways with his bride out of fear, and then God parted ways with his bride out of anger. So there's like a negative emotion tied to both of those things, but then we have the bride coming back with him. And I like this part of the typology where Sarah was really old whenever the seed, the promised covenant child, came into the world. Israel was already really old whenever the promised child came into the world. And the splendor, the majesty, the vibrance, the beauty, the attractiveness of its youth had already faded. The Davidic kingdom, the Solomon kingdom, Solomaic, whatever, however.
Solomonic?
Solomonic. The Solomonic kingdom, the high Israel kingdom in history, had already faded. They were a slave state. Their beauty was gone. Their vibrance was gone. They were past due. They were barren. That's when the child came.
That's
so whenever
true.
you would think
Yeah.
that the woman would give life in her beauty, in her youth, in her ability, whenever she would have eggs before she went menopausal, it didn't happen. It took too long. It was a long time in the making. It was decades. It was 24 years of them waiting for the covenant to come before God was like, yeah, it's going to happen for you. The 25th year of him leaving his father is whenever Isaac was given to him. That's a long time to wait. It's well after all of her beauty had faded. And just as most of David's, like, the splendor of being a Jew, the wealth that they had, the piles of gold, the strength that they had in their military, even having a king, all taken from them. That's when the Messiah comes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty amazing. Abraham's renamed just as Christ is renamed. He's named Abraham, the great father, or the father of many nations. And Jesus Christ is the father of all. He is God. So he is Abraham is the originator of our faith. Christ is the author of our faith. He's the perfecter of our faith. He makes intercession for the righteous and the unrighteous. Whenever we look at Genesis 18 at the end of it, he is like, well, what if it's only 5 people that are missing, or what if it's 40 or 20 or even 10? He's interceding for them, just as Moses intercedes for the people in Exodus, which we talked about. So we have Abraham interceding for the people, the righteous and the unrighteous, to avoid their destruction. And he goes in and out of the promised land himself, just as Christ, or he goes in and out of Egypt back into the promised land. So he's called into the promised land, goes into Egypt to avoid struggling there because of famine. And then Christ went into Egypt to avoid the struggles of death by the sword. And they come out of Egypt. So there's a connection there. They both had many followers, although most of Abraham's followers were servants, not disciples. They both had 2 brides. He has a Gentile bride and a Jewish bride. And the Gentile bride, they become one, essentially, because Hagar leaves for a bit and she ends up coming back. And then he has one bride at the end. So he has a Gentile bride, a Jewish bride, and then it's ambiguous whether or not Ketuna is, if I'm remembering her name correctly, again, for whatever reason, her
Kitsura.
name, Ketura, her name escapes me. She is the one wife, so it's like the 2 combined, and it's unclear whether or not she was a Gentile or a Jew, because it's both in one, just as Christ has 2 churches.
Well,
But
technically,
one.
I guess technically though, Sarah wasn't Jewish because
Right.
Abraham was the first Jew through the circumcision, and so I guess the first Jewish woman would have been Isaac's.
She's married to him.
Yeah.
She had her kid after the circumcision, so it was a circumcised seed going into her.
Mm.
I don't know if that makes you a Jewish woman if you have
Yeah, I would think.
uncircumcised intercourse.
Yeah, I guess it gets kind of dodgy there, like according to bloodline,
Right,
what you
yeah.
would do.
So we're not talking about Jews by bloodline. We're talking about Jews as in the covenant with circumcision. But yeah, but he has 2 brides that become one. Yeah, and then you have the seed that comes from him that then redeems all of humanity. And he was willing to sacrifice his son, and later on, God would be willing to do so as well to honor Abraham, which is pretty cool. It's pretty based. So,
Chris, I have no witty segue into this, but I'll be back in just a moment.
Okay. So we will keep trucking. Is there anything I want to read in 20 or 21? Or is there any questions in the chat that we could go through? Because otherwise I might just call it a night. I have not done the Moses typology, although I guess I could. Moses is related to Jesus in a bunch of ways. He is a shepherd, king, priest. So Christ is shepherd, he's king, and he's priest. And Moses is all of those things. He knows Moses face to face as Christ knows the Father face to face. Moses led the Jews out of Egypt into the promised land, into deliverance, into new life. Christ leads us all into our true promised land, the resurrection, relationship with God. He was a judge for the people. Just do it off the dome real quick. He forsake his life of paradise in order to enter in the life of a slave. So what I mean by that is I don't actually have my notes for Moses made, so I don't have anything. It's all just going to be me going through it right now. Moses killed the Egyptian slave, and in doing so, he forsaked the life that he had previously. He grew up in Pharaoh's house. Pharaoh represents God. So he essentially grew up in the house of God, living the life of luxury, never knowing work, never knowing suffering. He forsook all of the wonders of the world, all of the faithfulness of the world, all of the goodness of the world in order to sacrifice his life for a slave, for someone that the culture he grew up in didn't even consider that thing as a human. Slaves were not humans to them. So he was willing to sacrifice everything he had for the lowest of society, for the lowest of the lows. He sacrificed his life, pleasure. He stepped down from his throne and he entered into the world and he became a shepherd, which is pretty based. And then through the shepherd, he eventually became a king. He became a leader. He became a judge, priest, and a prophet. So he is all of those things. The prophet unto Moses is Jesus. It's pretty cool because he knows God face to face. You have Moses having 3 40-year periods of his life. He has a period, so he lived 120 years old, and he died. He had 40 years in the palace. He had 40 years as a shepherd and 40 years in the desert after the Exodus. So the first 40 years represents Jesus's divinity. The second 40 years represents Jesus's humanity and just his day-to-day life. And the last 40 years represents Jesus' servitude. He served God in the desert as a willing slave or a willing servant. 40 itself represents difficulties, struggling, temptations, trials, and we have Christ undergoing the trials in order to bring out new life. They underwent the trials in order to enter into the promised land. It is pretty based. Yeah, the arc is 40 days, 40 nights with the rain. Again, 40 comes up a lot too. You get 40 a lot with Jesus. Same with Jonah. We could do more typology though. I could do like other ones that I just have memorized and know really deeply. I will go pee whenever Steven comes back. We could do Jonah. Moses has a number of other types as well. I think I still have my old notes, but Moses is pretty deep in it. I have a lot of stuff I wrote years ago. To the Exodus. Hello.
Hello again.
Yes. Hello. Okay. Moses has a type. He performs many signs and wonders and miracles. He was a mediator between man and God, as I mentioned earlier. He controlled the sea. That's pretty cool.
Interesting.
Yeah. He commanded the sea. You can say he walked on water because he walked through the dry ground, but Jesus is obviously God of Job, and Job says that Yahweh treads the deep. So, but
And
they
also,
control the waters.
like a picture of baptism going through the sea too.
Mm-hmm. And a picture of childbirth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, pretty cool. Both men were aided by 12 leaders and 70 men.
Oh,
That's pretty cool.
that is pretty cool.
Yeah. Both are sent by God for their people. Both created food by miracles. So Jesus created the loaves and fishes. Moses created manna, quail, water, so on.
And also,
They delivered the
there's a
people from
point
bondage.
where Moses transfers the spirit to the people. You remember that story where God has him, and that was to the elders. Do you remember what I'm
Oh
talking
yeah,
about?
yeah. He gave them authority to then go out and do the judgment.
Yeah, but also there's a particular thing where God tells him that he's going to give the spirit. This is it's been a while since I've read that.
Like Hakadesh Ruach, or
Yeah, I don't. Dang, we're both failing here, Chris. We should know this
hold
better.
on.
There's a part where God calls the elders to Moses at I believe the entrance of the tent of meeting, and he
Numbers
has
11.
that. I think it
Yeah,
is
so
in Numbers.
yeah, it's whenever he assigns them as judges.
Oh, right. But also there's it's a particularly interesting thing about where it talks about the spirit.
Yahweh therefore said to Moses, "Gather for me 70 men from the elders of Israel, whom you know to be the elders of the people and their officers, and take them to the tent of meeting, and let them take their stand there with you. Then I will come down and speak with you there, and I will take of the Spirit who is upon you, and will put him upon them, and they
That's
shall
what I was
bear the
thinking.
burden of the people with you, so that you will not bear it all alone." Yeah, this is what I was talking about. I just
Yeah,
didn't
so
remember
then
the Spirit being given to them to enact their role as judge.
and then they
But
started to prophesy when they were there. And then it says, but did not do so again. That's verse 22. No,
yeah,
25.
it was like almost like the Pentecost, you know?
Hmm.
Yeah, then Yahweh came down in a cloud and spoke to them, and he took some of the Spirit that was upon him and placed them upon the 70 elders. And when the Spirit rested upon them, they prophesied. Yeah, literally Pentecost, like the Spirit entering onto them, and then they just start prophesying in tongues. Pretty based, pretty cool. So we have a ton of stuff with Moses. We also get that both are powerful in speech and action. That's Acts 7:22. So they were both powerful speakers, powerful doers, powerful miracle workers, and lawgivers. They're both lawgivers. So you have so many things, man, that has typology between him and Moses. And yeah, Joseph is just gonna be either a massive stream or a three-parter. I have no idea which one yet. But we'll go through some other types of Christ that I just know off my head. Because I don't have the rest of the Torah done with my notes. And I want to do the rest of them justice. Oh, we could do Jacob's ladder is interesting. So it is a bridge between humanity and heaven. Jesus Christ literally is the bridge between humanity and heaven, and the one who appeared in that vision is Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
So you have Jesus appearing in the vision in which there is a bridge between humanity and God. Pretty cool. Pretty base.
Yeah.
Pretty awesome. Yeah. Anyway, I need to go pee real quick.
Okay.
I'll be right back. I'll get some water, Tim.
Instead of being a silly, sinister fellow during this break, we mentioned at the beginning that I'm in the midst of celebrating the week of unleavened bread, and I was wondering if anybody watching, any of you guys, either observed the Passover ceremony or the week of unleavened bread, because me and my household, we do that, and super fun, super educational. And of course, from my position, I believe it is obligatory on us as believers to do so. Me and Chris are gonna have a talk about that. But I was just wondering if anybody else around here. Yeah, no, yeah, Jack, I don't know if you were here early enough, but I finished up my little presentation on the thing. It's gone from boats to teleporters. I think it was a logical growth into from one to the other. So we'll have to wait and see how fruitful my teleporter plan will be. But so far it's doing better than the boat. But I obviously need a lot more equipment, so I'm working on that. I'm working on sourcing materials to create a teleporter. And it's not going so well. But I am a man of faith and hope, and I expect something will turn up. And we'll just have to wait and see. But yeah, for right now, I'm taking a break from the building of the teleporter to observe the week of unleavened bread. I should have brought some. We make our own matzah, because if anybody here has ever had the boxed matzah, it's now the weird thing is, my kids, well, one of my kids loves the boxed matzah, and my other kids prefer when I make it. Hey, Chris, I was talking about matzah, and this time I'm being honest.
Sure.
Because there's some weird people in the chat that are bringing up teleporters and boats and stuff, and I have no clue what they're talking about.
So I'm going to have to rewatch this. Well, did you cover Joseph? I will not cover Joseph in this stream. That is going to be a dedicated stream in and of itself. Very long stream. That's going to be very.
And hopefully we'll
I
get
don't think people are prepared for it.
Tommy on board for that one.
Yes, Tommy
We gotta
should
get
be.
Tommy.
Yes, Tommy will be doing some presentation for it. We'll be reworking the presentation he made. He spent months working on a presentation on Joseph because of how deep the type is. So he spent months creating a presentation for the typology of Joseph after our 6-hour initial Bible study we did on it. And that's without any tangents. So me talking to one person in a room took 6 hours to go through Joseph. No tangents, no camera, no comments, none of that. Took 6 hours. So we'll see how long. And we didn't even finish it. I gave up. I gave up. So we got most of the way through. Then I skipped a couple chapters. Like, it's mostly the same. Anyway.
Oof. That was
Pain.
a cough of coughs there.
Yeah. I apologize for both my brain not functioning and my coughing. Yeah. It's a quick study. I know. It's most definitely not a quick study. He said we were all going to hell for not eating matzah.
I've infiltrated Chris's channel so that I could slipperly Judaize all of your trusty followers and audience.
Wait, why is that why people were donating the $1.99 for a
What? Matzah?
teleporter?
Teleporter? I don't know. I've seen teleporter mentioned like 3 or 4 times, and
Okay.
I know
Sure.
the boats. The boat thing, I know what that's about, but I have no clue what the. Do I look like a guy that could build a teleporter?
Oh man, I want to see your
not
full
what-
booklet eventually. I'd love to see the full plan. That'd be great. Do you still have the pages? 'Cause I want to see that presentation. We might, and if you'd be comfortable, I'd want to
I
see
mean,
that.
I've got notebooks laying
really
around,
badly.
but I don't know if there's a. I mean, I don't know if that's what you'd be mentioning. Some of these are just like, funny drawings of things that who knows. I'm surrounded by books.
Okay. Let's go through Jonah real quick. This will probably take about 30 minutes.
Hmm.
Then we might do some other types and probably call it. It's midnight now. Ooh, it's already midnight. Okay, let's do Jonah.
Or might you want to do, Chris, because I had audience. I had the privilege of going through Jonah with Chris the other night, not on a stream, and it's so awesome that Chris, might you want to save that for its own thing so you can just kind of really dwell on that, or you feel good just flashing through the.
Well, we got 13 people still here. Probably made it through most of it. This could be a nice little treat for the people who make it to the end of the stream. Jonah's pretty cool. Jonah's really based. And it doesn't take that long to go through. It's only 4 chapters. We might just do the first 3 chapters and let you guys think about the 4th chapter on your own. It's deeper than Joseph? Nah. Nah. It's pretty deep, but it's not deeper than Joseph. Yeah. Anyway. I don't think there's a type of Christ deeper than Joseph in the Bible. And ironically, Joseph is speculative according to the scholars because it's not directly attested to in the New Testament. It is the most obvious type of Christ in the entire Bible. And yet, because it's not talked about in the New Testament, it's not considered typology. That's dumb to me. So people are like, oh, it's only a type if it's in the New Testament. If you're not accounting for Joseph, you're not doing typology. Anyway. So Jonah is interesting because Jesus uses it of himself. So going through this, Jordan Peterson loves Jonah, yeah.
Man, AP's Jordan Peterson impersonation is hilariously excellent. Which is so funny because it is nothing like AP already has a very distinct voice, the tone of it, and the accent, and then he does Jordan Peterson, and it's so good.
What do you mean?
I don't buy your Allah.
I don't buy your Allah. Well, it all goes back to the lobsters. No, I can't do it. More like a Nick Fuentes. Anyway, so now the word of Yahweh came to Jonah, the son of Amittai, saying, "Arise, now go to Nineveh, the great city, and call out against it, for their evil has come up before me." Now, whenever I talk about typology, I use not scholarly terms because they're more understandable to humans that are speaking to one another for purpose of understanding things and not to write a book. So in the scholarship, a type and an antitype are their technical terms. And the antitype is typically Jesus, and the type is the thing in the Old Testament that the antitype fulfills in the New Testament. So the bronze serpent is the type, Jesus on the cross is the antitype. That's very dumb to me. To me, it makes more sense to say that a type is something that is like Jesus, and an antitype is something that's not like Jesus, but still relates to him. So when I'm going to say type and antitype, I mean it in that way. I do not mean it in the scholarly way. I think that way is stupid. But that came about whenever that word meant something different than it means now. So I'm using the NLT version of antitype. And if you're going to read books, it's going to be the KJV version of antitype. Anyway, so I would say this is an antitype of Christ, where Jonah is hearing the word of God. Jonah flees to Tarshish. Instead of like, hey, yeah, God, I will serve you faithfully, he does the opposite. Why? Because he hates the Ninevites. He hates the Assyrians. Because it's already, they are going to genocide the Jews, so the Israelites, not necessarily Judea, but the Israelites are sent into exile by Assyria. Assyria's capital is Nineveh. So Nineveh is his arch enemy, and God is telling him to go to it to preach to it, so they repent. And he knows that they're going to repent if he preaches to them. So instead of going, he deliberately flees to Tarshish, which is either in Greece, in one of the islands off of Greece, or Spain. So instead of going east to Syria or northeast, he went northwest, as far west as he could possibly go, because it would be on the bottom left side, the bottom southwest side of Spain is maybe where Tarshish was. So he may have been fleeing to the opposite end of the world to get away from fulfilling his covenant or his promise, his purpose with God. So where Jesus is agreeing to go to the Gentiles to save them, to preach the good news to them, to bring them into new life, repentance, all these beautiful things, Jonah is like, oh, no, fam, I'm not going to do that. Nope, I want them to die. This is a murder attempt, if anything, trying to get them away from him. So Jonah is fleeing. It's pretty interesting. So whereas Jesus is faithful, Jonah is unfaithful, and he flees and doesn't just ignore his calling, he flees to the opposite end of his calling. Went down to Joppa, found a ship which was going to Tarshish, paid its fare, and went down into it to go in with them to Tarshish from the presence of Yahweh. He is fleeing from the presence of Yahweh. Jesus is always in the presence of Yahweh. But Yahweh hurled a great wind on the sea, and there was a great storm on the sea, so that the ship gave thought to breaking apart. The same thing happened to Jesus. There was a great wind that came on Jesus whenever he's sleeping in the boat with the disciples. The sailors became fearful, and every man cried out to his God. And they hurled the cargo which was in the ship into the sea and lightened it for them. But Jonah had gone down below into the innermost part of the vessel, lain down, and had fallen into deep sleep. So Jesus, in Matthew, I believe, was sleeping in the boat, and then I think it's Peter. He comes down. He's like, "Hey, what are you doing, Lord? Do you not care that we're about to drown?" And then Jesus wakes up, gets up, is like, "Bye," and then it calms. And it goes to like, "Peace be still," and it calms down. Here we have.
What type of man is this?
What type of man is this? Yeah, even the waves obey him, and they become fearful of God in front of them, which is going to come up in a bit. So here we have the sailors who were likely Jews and Gentiles because they come out of a port that was in Israel. So he is maybe on a Gentile ship, maybe on a Jewish ship, maybe on a mixed ship, and they're crying out to their own gods. Well, the Jews were polytheists at this point. They were pagans, essentially. They were practicing evil, which is why God killed them with the Assyrians. Imagine that. So they are calling out to his God, not the God, where Jesus is God, and he was the one that calmed the storm. And the the captain comes down near him and says, "How is it that you are deeply sleeping? Arise, call on your God. Perhaps your God will be concerned about us so that we will not perish." And what does Peter ask Jesus? Are you not concerned that we're about to die? So his God, Jesus, is like, well, maybe you'd be concerned that we're going to die. Pretty amazing. And the sea represents death. It represents chaos, it represents sin. And a lot of the Near East literature, especially at this time. So we have sin coming up about them, Jew and Gentile, going to crush them, going to destroy them, going to kill them. And we have Jonah sleeping soundly in it, just as Christ is untouched by sin and is sleeping soundly in the boat. Then each man said to the other, "Come, let us have the lots fall so that we may know whose account this calamitous evil has struck us." So they had the lots fall, and the lot fell on Jonah. This is a way of doing divination. Then they said to him, "Tell us now, on whose account has this calamitous evil struck us? What is your occupation? Where do you come from? And what is your country? From what people are you?" And he said to them, "I am a Hebrew, and I fear Yahweh, the God of heaven, who made the sea and the dry land." So this would be terrifying. I follow the God who made the thing that we're on that's actively trying to kill us. And then the man became greatly fearful, and they said to him, "What is this you have done?" For they knew he was fleeing from the presence of Yahweh because he had told them. So he is a Jew and he fears Yahweh. Jesus is a Jew and he is Yahweh, the God of heaven, who made the sea and the dry land. So Jesus is the maker of the sea and the land. He's the one that said, "Let there be light," and he's also the one that said, "The waters recede," and they receded. He's also the one that helped Moses part the sea. And we get in Moses, Exodus 6:6, that God will save them with mighty words and mighty deed. He will save them with outstretched arms, which is really based because Jesus literally saves us with outstretched arms. So going back to like the Moses typology, but like Moses is commanding the sea to part, and it does, just as Jesus commanded the sea to part, and it revealed dry land for animals, for humanity to live on. Here we have the Israelites fleeing through the dry land into the promised land and into the new Eden, you might say, with outstretched arms. So we have outstretched arms delivering the people out of bondage into freedom, from slavery into freedom. And we have Jesus on the cross with outstretched arms delivering us from slavery unto freedom. Pretty amazing. Back to Jonah. So we have Jesus is God who saves us, who made us, who cares for us. Then the men became greatly fearful, and he's like, "What are you doing?" So they said to him, "What should we do to you that the sea may become quiet for us?" What should we do to you? It's to you that is specifically happening here. They know that he is responsible for this event. He's responsible for this happening. And it's like, what do we need to do to be saved? But it's not just what do we need to do to be saved? What do we need to do to you? Because we had to do something to Christ to be saved. We had to nail him to the cross so that our sea may become quiet, that our sin will die down, that our sin is not against us, that we will be able to live and survive this world. For the sea was becoming increasingly stormy. So he said to them, "Lift me up and hurl me into the sea. Then the sea will become quiet for you, for I know that on account of me this great storm has come upon you." However, the men rowed desperately to return to dry land, but they could not, for the sea was becoming increasingly stormy against them. And they called on Yahweh and said, "Ah, O Yahweh, we earnestly pray, do not let us perish on account of this man's life, and do not put innocent blood on us. For you, O Yahweh, as you have pleased, you have done." So they lifted Jonah up and hurled him into the sea, and the sea stood still from its raging. Then the men greatly feared Yahweh, and they offered a sacrifice to Yahweh and made vows. And Yahweh appointed a great fish to swallow Jonah, and Jonah was in the stomach of the fish 3 days and 3 nights. Obviously, the 3 days and 3 nights is Christ. But I want to go back to this bit here. Lift me up. As we've seen repeatedly, Christ is lifted up. He's the bronze serpent lifted up. He is Isaac lifted up. He is lifted up and hurl me into the sea. Throw me into the chaos. Throw me into the death and the sin. And then sin will be quiet for you. It will be removed from you. You will be saved by killing me. by sacrificing me. So now he's a willing sacrifice for sin. Now it's for his own sin versus Jesus is sacrificed for others' sin to save both Jew and Gentile in the ship. Jonah sacrificed for his own sin to save humanity. Jesus sacrificed for our sins to save humanity. And he calms the storm. And they say, "Oh, Yahweh, we, do not let us perish for taking an innocent man's life." The I was gonna say the rabbis, the Pharisees didn't have any qualms about that whatsoever. They wanted to take the innocent man's life. And instead of "do not put innocent blood on us," Christ puts his innocent blood on us so that we can live. Because Yahweh is doing as he pleases, and it was Yahweh's choice, Yahweh's decision to kill Christ in order to redeem us from our sin. And whenever that happens, our sea stops raging. We are given new life. We are given freedom from death. Leviathan or not? I don't know. But anyway. Yes. Jonah could have just as easily jumped overboard for him to be sacrificed. He didn't. This is, again, one of the points where, why in the world is the text so specific in this? Why is it that the boys, the men, have to lift me up and throw me into the sea? He could have thrown himself into the sea. Instead, humanity need to lift him up in order for him to be a proper sacrifice. It's pretty cool. And then from the sacrifice, we have that both Jew and Gentile, the men aboard this boat, greatly feared Yahweh from the sacrifice, and they offered a sacrifice to Yahweh and made vows. They accepted the sacrifice of Jonah, made them realize that God existed. They realized from this event that, oh, the sea stood still. The centurion before the cross. Oh, the sky turns dark. There's an earthquake and the temple is torn. That was God. That was the Son of God. So the audience in the crowd realized when the earthquake happened, when the sky was darkened, we just killed God. That's terrifying. And here they're realizing Yahweh exists. He's in control of the sea, and he is terrifying. And they make a vow to him. So they become essentially Christians. They become proto-Christians. They become followers of Yahweh through this encounter of Jonah's sacrifice. They become followers of Yahweh. Pretty amazing. Then he's appointed a great fish to eat him. This may have been a basking shark. It may have been a blue whale. Blue whales are known to travel the Mediterranean. And if he was going out to Spain, he very well could be a blue whale. Could be basking sharks. Those are in the Mediterranean. Could be just a larger version of it. Does not say. Dog, word for fish here, literally just means
big sea swimmy
creature.
thing. Yeah.
Things swim in water. Dog. Yeah, like eels are dog. I think turtles would be dog, like sea turtles. Like if it in water, a dog. Anyway, who knows what it is? Could be a whale, could be not a. Could be basking shark is more interesting because they have very slow metabolisms and they would not dissolve his body nearly as much. And you could just say he supernaturally preserved his body, or you could say he didn't supernaturally preserve his body. It became zombified and then he restored him whenever he resurrected him. But he's probably dead in the fish. He's probably not alive in the fish. And he's in the fish for 3 days and 3 nights. At the end of the 3 days and 3 nights, he then gives this prayer. So then Jonah prayed to Yahweh, his God, from the stomach of the fish, and he said, so the first chapter of Jonah's story, he's like an antitype of Christ. Then he becomes a type of Christ. Then he stays a type of Christ for 2 and 3. Then he becomes an antitype of Christ again at the end in chapter 4. So there's like this sandwich happening of him not being like being the opposite of Jesus, being Jesus with the sweet, delicious ice cream center, and then not being Jesus again, being the opposite of him. So you get like a turd ice cream sandwich. It's great.
Which, by the way, doesn't taste very good.
Yeah.
In case you were wondering.
Yeah. It does not.
Can you imagine being
Uh,
Jonah though? After all this, you land in the water, and then you get swallowed, like because I'm with it all happening so fast, it's not like there's a lot of time to reflect. But I mean, he lands in the water and he's probably thinking, well, okay, what now? What's gonna? And then I mean, just
Yep.
not very
Yeah.
fun.
No. So he is praying from within the stomach of the fish. I'm like 99% sure he's dead here. For a variety of reasons, one of which I have highlighted right here. I called out to Yahweh. I called out of my distress to Yahweh, and he answered me. So this is like Psalm 22's language of Jesus on the cross. This is like
Mhm.
Jesus on the cross. I cried for help from the belly of Sheol. Well, what's Sheol?
Right.
The land of the dead.
Right. But it's sometimes, it's also used not not figuratively, I guess, but uh
Like you're sparing me from death. Yeah.
yeah,
Poetically.
or like, I mean, I might as well be dead, basically. You're
Right.
in the belly of in the sea, and uh
Yeah,
couldn't get any closer to death without being dead. But you
it's
are, for
true.
all purposes, dead at that point.
Yeah. Especially because this is day 3.
Hmm.
So I cried for help from the belly of Sheol. You heard my voice. You had cast me into the deep, again, into the heart of the seas. And the current surrounded me, and all your breakers and waves passed over me. So I said, I have been driven away from your sight. Nevertheless, I will look again towards your holy temple. So driven away from your sight, again, euphemism for death. Water encompassed me to my very soul. The great deep surrounded me. Weeds wrapped around my head. I went down to the base of the mountains. Again, mentioned like kind of like death. The earth
Hmm.
with its bars closed behind me forever. Death language. You have brought up my life from the pit. Death language. And also resurrection language.
Hmm.
You have brought up my life from the pit. O Yahweh, my God. So this is resurrection language that is being applied to Jonah at this moment in time. While my soul was fainting within me, I remembered Yahweh, and my prayer came to you to your holy temple. Those who regard worthless idols forsake their loving kindness, but as for me, I will sacrifice to you with the voice of thanksgiving. That which I have vowed, I will pay. That which I have vowed, I will pay. Christ vowed to go to the cross and to fulfill our redemption. Salvation belongs to Yahweh. And if you've seen my Yeshua video, this is Yeshua. Salvation is Yeshua. So Jesus belongs to Yahweh. You go through Isaiah 12:2, Yahweh becomes Yeshua. It's
Hmm.
pretty cool. So you have, in this typology of Jesus, you have Jesus's name appearing. Now, grant the grammatical form is not exactly Yeshua,
Hmm.
but it is still, it's the root, it's Yeshua, salvation.
Hmm.
Salvation belongs to Yahweh. Salvation is of Yahweh is another way to read this in the Hebrew. So pretty cool, pretty base. Then Yahweh spoke to the fish and it vomited Jonah onto the dry land. So now we have the fish spitting him up onto the dry land. This might have been a resurrection moment. So, Jesus says the only sign this generation will get is the sign of Jonah. For 3 days and 3 nights, he was in the belly of the earth, and then he was resurrected. So we have Jesus himself using Jonah as typology here, as like a form of fulfilled prophecy here, with his own death, burial, and resurrection. So this might have been literal resurrection, and we do have language to support that it was literally resurrection with you have brought up
Hmm.
my life from the pit. And all these other sentences are about death. It could all be poetic, and he could have lived through the fish. But for all the people of like, oh, there wouldn't be oxygen in the fish, how could he stay alive? You can just very easily say he actually just died and God resurrected him.
Hmm.
You can very easily say that. So, and the text supports it. But he's vomited onto dry land by a fish. And that will become important in a little bit. Now, the word of Yahweh came to Jonah a second time, saying, Arise, go to Nineveh, the great city, and call out to it this very call, which I'm going to speak to you. So Jonah arose and went to Nineveh, according to the word of Yahweh. And Nineveh was an exceedingly great city, a 3 days' walk. And Jonah began to walk began to go into the city 1 day's walk, and he called out and said, 40 days, and Nineveh will be overthrown. And the people of Nineveh believed in God, and they called a fast and put on sackcloth from the greatest to the least of them. So now Jonah is believing Yahweh, accepting Yahweh, doing what Yahweh wants. And again, we have 3 days mentioned, but this gets into fulfilled prophecy, actually. In the Old Testament prophetic system, how long is a day in reality? What does a day represent, typically?
Old Testament prophetic system.
So like Daniel 9, for example. With the 70
okay.
weeks.
Okay. 100 years. No. That. Yeah, 100.
No.
1,000.
1 year?
Oh, a day.
There's a passage that says that, a day is like 1,000 years, and 1,000 years
yeah,
like a
that's
day.
what I was thinking. Yeah, right.
You have that. Yeah. Then you also have that days are literally just years. With the 70 weeks being 490 years. Yeah. So we have 3 days, a half a day, and 40 days. Well, how long did Jesus preach?
3.5 years.
What happened 40 years after Jesus was done preaching?
The destruction of the temple.
Yep. So we have Jonah going in and preaching to them and saying in 40 years or in 40 days, Nineveh will be overthrown. Jerusalem will be destroyed. You have this in Matthew 24. You have Jesus prophesying the destruction of Jerusalem, the destruction of the temple, all these things happening. And it just so happens to be 40 years later. And Jesus says explicitly, the only sign this generation to get is the sign of Jonah. And he knows that like the Jews there would have known that Jonah was saying these things to Nineveh. And he may have applied that to themselves and like, how dare you compare us to the Gentiles, compare us to the Assyrians that slaughtered us. Like this is an old wound that would have been festering. This is a very offensive thing Jesus said to the leaders at the time. Very, very offensive. So we have possibly reference to Jerusalem's destruction in the message of Jesus to them. And the people of Nineveh believed in God, and they called a fast and put on sackcloth. So the Gentiles repented and accepted the message of the Jewish man that came to them to free them from their sin, to call them to repentance from their sin. The Gentiles believed him. Flip side, the Jews didn't believe him whenever it was given to Jerusalem. So whereas the Jews denied Yeshua, the Gentiles accepted him. We see here that the Ninevites are accepting the word of Jonah. That's pretty interesting. Then the word of the king reached Nineveh. Well, then the word reached the king of Nineveh, and he rose from his throne, laid aside his mantle from him, covered himself with sackcloth, and sat on the ashes. And he cried out and said, in Nineveh, by the decree of the king and his nobles, do not let man, animal, herd, or flock taste of me. Do not let them eat, do not let them drink water. But both man and animal must be covered with sackcloth, and let men call on God with their strength, that each may turn from his evil way and from the violence which is in his hands. Who knows, God may yet turn and relent and turn away from his burning anger so that we will not perish. Then God saw their works, that they turned from their evil way, literally that they repented. So God relented concerning the evil which he had spoken he would bring upon them, and he did not bring it upon them. So they believed the word of God given by a Jewish man that they are evil, deserving of wrath and death, and they had faith because he said, who knows? Who knows? God may turn and relent. This is a faith statement. So they had faith mixed with repentance. That combined is what God used to relent concerning the wrath he had poured out against them. So he put his wrath in forbearance. This is Romans language. He put his wrath in forbearance for the word of the prophet to come to them to see whether or not they can be judged. And in the same way, we have God put our sins on forbearance so that whenever the Son came and died on the cross, then our sins can be judged, but our sins can be judged with the blood of Christ on them to redeem us and save us, rather than just everyone going to hell.
Hmm.
So again, yeah, it's so cool, man.
Yeah.
Bible's cool, God's cool. Yeah. I feel like there's something I'm missing, but I don't remember.
From what you've gone over already?
Yeah. I don't know why, but something felt like I was missing it. I'll just keep going. You can think about it for yourself. Come to your own thoughts and conclusions on the matter. But this was a great evil to Jonah, and he became angry. They were forgiven their evil deeds without works, without judgment, without righteousness. And to the world, this actually seems like an evil thing. Jonah became very angry. To God, this is not an evil thing. God cares about us enough. He even ends this with, should I not have put pity on Nineveh, the great city in which there are more than 120,000 persons who do not know the difference between their right hand and their left, as well as many animals. Now, on the cross, Jesus says, forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do. That might be an allusion to this. Plus, a variety of other things, but they don't know what they're doing when they're killing me. They don't know what they're doing in their morality because they don't have the Holy Spirit to tell them right and wrong. They don't know the truth because they are blinded. Their consciences are seared. They're separated from God. Their understanding of sin and goodness is distorted. How can they be fully judged in that moment? But God is like, hey, these people are helpless right now. Why would I not have pity on them, even though they're doing evil things? They're still my children. They're still image bearers. They're still beloved of Yahweh. We talk about the Old Testament, like, oh, the God of the Old Testament is so wrathful. It's like, my guy, he threw Jonah into a whale in order to save 120,000 people. Like, he would have not destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah for 10. Like, you have no idea how just and loving and merciful he is.
With the people of Israel, who, I mean, earlier in the stream we went over when they were complaining about manna, after they had been rescued from all sorts of terrible slavery and from just everything terrible, and they literally watched themselves walk through the sea. They saw all the 10 plagues, and again coming against the most powerful, well, not maybe not most powerful, but one of the most powerful civilizations at the time, and they're escorted out through miracles, and yet they turn back and complain, and God is takes care of them, and to this day is taking care of them.
Yeah. God loves everyone, all people. Even those who don't know the right hand from the left, don't know Yeshua from Joshua. Same name.
Good example, though, for that reason.
Yeah. They just don't understand the significance of all these things. Yeah. So, let's see. It's already 12:30. I should probably go to sleep. But we do have Jonah quoting Exodus with the you are gracious and compassionate God, slow to anger and abundant in loving kindness, one who relents concerning evil. Yeah. So we have Jonah quoting that, and it's all related back. So now Yahweh, please take my life from me, for death is better to me than life. He's so salty.
Yeah.
Immensely salty. Do you have good reason to be angry? And then he doesn't respond, which is my favorite part of this. Is like he's wise enough to not clap back at God after complaining with this. He's like, do you have reason to be angry? And then whenever he goes and makes a tabernacle for himself, sits in the shade, and wants to see what will happen in the city, God makes a plant, and he goes over and it gives shade to him and delivers him from his miserable evil. And Jonah was extremely glad about the plant. And then God gave a worm, a teluah, a crimson worm, at the breaking of dawn the next day, and it struck the plant and dried up. And then he scorched him from the east. and the East is like where death, trial, all that type of stuff comes from in Middle East literature. So the East is where like Gog and Magog come from. It's where Eden was at. It's where sin originated. It's where a lot of the plagues came in. The locust blew in from an east wind. Um, so the East is related to suffering, and he used an east wind to scorch him. And then Jonah said, then God said to Jonah, "Do you have good reason to be angry about the plant?" And he said, "I have good reason to be angry even to death." He did not have good reason to be angry earlier whenever you asked him the question. Now he does, because it was his plant. It wasn't his city, but it was his plant. So he's like super salty about the plant, even more so. And you had pity on the plant for which you did not work until, and which you did not cause to grow, which came to be overnight and perished overnight. And then he says, try not to have pity on Nineveh, the great city. So he teaches a lesson to Jonah that human life is more valuable to God than human suffering, which is kind of crazy. But God loves all people. He loves all. He doesn't want anyone to suffer. He doesn't want anyone to perish. He doesn't want anyone to live in sin. He wants all of us to repent and come to him and have fellowship with him and relationship with him and all these things. And we see that with the new covenant coming through repentance and faith and love and relationship with Yahweh. And it's just so cool.
Yeah.
The worm is the same worm of Psalm 22, which I made a video on. If you haven't seen that, go check it out. The worm itself is a pretty based typology. Yeah. And you can say many things about the plant and all this. You can speculate on that in a number of ways. I'm not going to. I'll let you speculate on that on your own. Because I'm not confident on it. I don't want to teach something false. It's not on stream. So I'll speculate that with people in person. I'm not going to speculate about that right now because I'm, again, so unconfident about it that I would not actually include that on stream so people can't cite me as a source for anything stupid that I say. Anyway, we're at 3 hours. It's almost 1. I should probably go to sleep. So I think I'm going to call it, at least for the typology side of it. If there's any comments in the chat or questions.
Oh, hey, there's
Mike.
Yohanan ben David.
Oh, yeah. Hello. Hello, brother. Thank you for coming out, those who came out and watched it. Thank you, Ash. I don't think he actually ended up coming back, but it's fine.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mary,
got
for
too
coming
cold.
out. He got too cold. Had to smoke his cigar out by the heater or something. Yeah. I need to go to sleep myself. Next week, we are going to be going through the story of Jacob and Isaac. And thank you, Jack. Donating 5 memberships. Appreciate it, brother. Sebastian still didn't get one. It's funny. Yeah. No. Yeah, all the people celebrating unleavened bread right now, enjoying their week off work and
Very
all
nice.
that.
Very,
Yes,
very
yes,
good.
very nice. Yeah. Makes me want to
Usually
keep the
when we
festivals
do
just so
these
I get
live
weeks off.
streams, it comes to this time of night and I'm like, oh man, tomorrow could be a little bit rough. And tonight I'm thinking, I don't even have to think about that. Maybe, who knows? Maybe I'll stay up the whole night.
I woke up and see my favorite goy things. I am the Talmud goy. Yes. Yeah, thank you for coming out. We'll talk about why you shouldn't do polygamy next week.
Oh boy.
It's gonna be a major topic because that comes up a lot with the patriarchs. Imagine that. Yeah, polygamy is bad. Weird. Crazy. You shouldn't do it. Yeah, then we'll go through that. We'll go through Jacob and his story, and then we'll do the Joseph stream. So the Joseph stream will probably be in about 3 weeks, depending on how much time Tommy needs to update his notes. Otherwise, we'll do it the beginning of May, and that will be the end to the big typology. If he still needs time, we might just do typologies of the rest of the Torah. So we'll do maybe Moses in more depth, which I don't know how much more depth I could get for Moses. And we could do the law, because the law has a bunch of types of Christ in it.
Mm.
So I think that would make Stephen a little happy going through the festivals and the sacrifices, and some of the laws themselves are pretty based. It's 6:35 in the UK right now. Man, go sleep.
Hey, that means Tommy will be up soon if I need give him a
Tommy's
call.
sleep schedule has been shot, dude. It's
Yeah.
crazy how bad his sleep schedule has been. No, I woke up the other day. I woke up at 9, and he texted me. He's like, "Yeah, I just woke up." I'm like, "My guys, like, it's like 2 p.m. for you." That's wild.
I
Yeah.
tried to I was being a cheeky boy last night and was up a little later than ought to have been, and so I made a quick appeal thinking like I probably shouldn't, because I've had several sunrise chats with Tommy, and uh I sent out the bat signal and just was like, "Hey Tommy, you up?" And fortunately, he did not answer me. And then, right when I went to bed at a way too late time, he wrote and said, "Oh, I'm just getting up. My sleep schedule is back on track now." It was like, good for both of us.
Yeah, no, we need to fix it. My sleep schedule has not been good either, but most of that's been from playing Pokemon. So it's my own doing. I've been playing a Pokemon ROM hack called Pokemon Unbound. It's pretty based, pretty good. Highly recommend it for those who haven't played it. Who like Pokemon. Probably the best ROM hack I've ever played. Anyway, I need to go to sleep. So
And I'm
we're gonna call
an
it
hour
there.
ahead of Chris, so I should say that too. I need to go to sleep, and maybe it will come.
Yes, maybe. We'll see. But I almost left the studio again instead of ending stream.
and then
Keep almost
it
doing
will
that, man.
become my stream.
I'll become this stream. We'll talk about teleporters and boats and taking over the world. I do want to see the whole booklet at some point because we got cut off and I couldn't see it. I watched the replay and I couldn't find it and it was very salty. So I want to see the whole booklet at some
I
point.
wish I knew
Anyway.
what you were talking about, Chris. But yeah.
Anyway, thank you for coming out. Laila Tov. May the grace of the Lord Jesus Christ, the love of God, and fellowship of the Holy Spirit with you always. Goodbye.
Amen.